Ding ding ding. Ding ding ding. Ding ding ding. Hello, people. Hi. I'm just booping, babadooking, posting a couple thousand other things. All waiting for people to come to the chat. Hi. How you doing? Hey. Hello. I think I'm gonna put on waiting music from now on. That's what I think I'm gonna do. Hello. I'm also trying to find this particular version of Faded Summer Love, and I can't seem to find it. Oh well. And the autumn wind brings them to the end of a faded summer love. When an early autumn walks the land and chills the how everybody doing today? Hope everybody's feeling good. The summer trees perhaps what memories I own. There's a dance pavilion in the rain, all shuttered down a winding country lane. All russet brown, a frosty window pane shows me a town grown lonely. I'm so alone. That dream of ours that started so April-hearted seemed made for just a boy and girl. I'm not feeling very happy right now with what I'm seeing, with what I'm looking at. Also, I'm finishing a meme that I put together. One moment, I shall be with you. I'm being a man whore right now is what I'm doing, in case anybody was wondering. I can't be horny and clever at the same time. I can be cleverly horny. That's not the same thing. I see familiar faces. Looks like Sitch is, well, no. He is going live, or they're waiting to go live. I think they're waiting to go live at 4. Anything else? Anything else? No. Okay. Thought I had a notice for something, but I guess I don't. Cough. Cough. Mic's too loud. Or not loud enough. Up audio up slightly. Microphone slightly ahead. Double cough. Much better. So hello people, how are you? Thoughts on Miss Roma so far? Well, for those of us who are tuning in because we're like, who? What's this? Ooh, whoa? Carl doing a stream? The current consensus on Chloe Roma is that if this girl is not a grifter, she does not know how to handle herself. She is still wet behind the ears, sort of thing. It's a very different situation. That's it. My gun is across the room. It's a very different situation than the kind of grifters that we've seen in political parlance, in any movement, or any organization, or any business. I think I'm gonna order drinks. Hold on. Let me order some drinks. Vintage music is always the best, my friend. Of course, the music is only for the waiting room. Soon you're gonna be left with me and the batters. But, this is a very different situation than, say, somebody like Anita Sarkeesian, Chelsea Van Valkenburg, aka Zoe Quinn, Brianna Wu, or any other grifter that's ever been able to get money out of people. Because they just said, believe hard enough and you too can be free of the chuds. Right? Because, unlike those situations, if Roma is indeed a social chameleon, she is smart enough to know when she can fuck up and when she cannot fuck up. So, for example, with what we reviewed last time, those of you who were not here, I was doing a stream. It accidentally got cut into two halves. Part 1 and Part 2 is on the channel here. What we saw was her refutation and debunking of the video made by Think Before You Can Sleep, where they accused her of being a social chameleon. This video was so poorly put together that despite the fact that both of them look like idiots, Roma gets to take the upper high ground and say, oh well, here, look, an incel. And the problem is that if she's a grifter, this woman is so wet behind the ears that it can poorly be contained. And she's just a little bit too happy to say that word, to say misogynist, to say misogynist, to say sexist. And so it beggars belief how ridiculously, well, green she is. If she's been doing it for this long, while in Canada no less, how is it that she has not come across the airwaves of the honey badgers? It has to have been recent, because here she is, famed on TikTok, where the best thing you have to be, because I know, because I've seen it, my brother's girlfriend, or as I like to call her, his bottom bitch, because he's got plenty of bitches, showed me the kind of environment that TikTok is, where people are vying for attention in any way possible. The way that Chloe is, hot, attractive, white, tattooed, and advocating for something that people have been told makes you basically a murderer, short of you having the blood and the axe on you. I can see how she grew so goddamn fast. You don't really have to rebut anything. You don't have to really talk back against anything. All you have to do is put a video of some horrible thing happening that anybody would object to. And if it were the way that it is, hunky-dory bums the word, oh, this is so horrible. And all of you women who think that this is acceptable, shame on you. Very easy. When the screen can't talk back, it's very easy. This would be the first time that I think she's been pushed back in a way where it's not, for all you haters out there who said I'm a liar, here's the proof, here's the proof. You know? She's had to articulate herself. And when it comes to articulation, well, she can't. She can't even begin to believe. However, if she's not a grifter, because we're still going off the if she isn't. She's not. If she went out in public and did something like this, could end her career like that. If this is not the beginning of the end of her career. She's still doing the thing that I showed you at the beginning of the last stream. She's still putting herself in front of the camera, flaunting the things that she has and saying, I'm so happy, I'm so blessed, you know? I'm living my best life, block out the haters, the blue, the normal shit that we usually see out of these types. These types being people who think they're holier than thou. But I'm not sure. I haven't decided yet. In my own opinion, I think she's being stupid. Because she thinks that because she's being victimized, which is not what's happening, you're being criticized, not victimized. She thinks, well, I can just show my ass, and if people accost me about it, it's like, whatever, man, you don't know anything about me. But if somebody calmly, quietly, in a normal speaking tone, asks her basic questions in the form of a debate, whether it's on Twitch or not, in public or not, if she flies off the handle like this all the time, every time, that's sus, dog. And right now, my sus alarm wants to go off, but I don't have enough information. So rather than say yes or no, I'm going to say maybe. Maybe she is, maybe she isn't. We're going to watch from the experts, though. We're going to listen to my Sundays. And we're going to find out together. Here, today. Because since my schedule now changes around, I now have more time in the middle of the day. But I'll be gone overnight, if that makes sense. I leave later in the PM and I come back at 6. So, content now will shift around that schedule. Rather than me being live in the morning, always around about 6, 9 to whenever the hell I go in, I could be live until 7:30 PM. So, this is something you expect. Give me a second to order these dumbass drinks of mine, and we will be on our way. I have to be a fat ass first. What's the nurse song? We'll see.
We're clinging to an autumn sky. Love was ours until October wandered by. Let the years come and go, I still feel the glow that time cannot fade.
Right, cherry, cranberry. Raspberry. 3 of those for me.
Through the trees comes autumn with a
Don't you let me touch this?
melody.
Screen. There we go.
The sweetest music ever
touch it.
Let the years come
Listening in the shower, solve the scroll lock issue. Might have been a bent pin. I have not actually. I will get to that when I get to that. Scroll lock not being functional is not a big deal. It's one button. If you keep reminding me about it, that was going to start driving me insane. Why is it telling me mismatch? Okay, do another one then. I would like a normal I make these. I would like it in cherry foot. I like some raspberry, a cherry, like a lemon, like 3 of them. Oh my lord. What is being identified with a mismatch? What? What in the actual fuck? Go over and get a different one. Green apple. Like 3 of them. And a cherry. Another berry. I like lemon in it. And I want 3 of them. Alright, I'm gonna reboot this app. And I'm gonna worry about it in a second. I'm irritated. I'm irritated. I wanted food.
but other loves surround you, and I don't stand a ghost of a chance.
BSA just went live. App rebooted. Try this one more goddamn time. And if it don't happen, it don't happen. I'm not in the mood.
Just for a tender kiss.
Let's try Sonic on Manchester.
You might discover
Try this again. Because if it's fucking up because of the flavors, I'm gonna be really mad.
meant for you, and
That's climbing.
I'd be true.
We're pretty for it. No flavors.
What's the good of scheming?
There you go, see what happens. So it's just this thing mismatching then.
I know I must be dreaming.
Wonderful. Okay.
For I don't stand
I don't know what would cause that.
ghost of a chance.
They're saying that they don't have larges? Is that it? Try this one. Like 3 of them. Okay, so it's just that restaurant. We're not gonna worry about it then. Fucking annoying. Let's see here. Robot caller, text message from my mother. Robot caller, Vader driver, robot caller, bunch of bullshit. Alright, chat, you have my undivided attention now. Hello, hi, hello to everybody who's new. I'm Carl, I'm a head ass. Let's get started, shall we? 1 second. Now I'm a real streamer. Let's get started.
They bore too much fruit, charmed all the wayside. There's
Just annoyed. Checked everything and he shipped it.
now shedding.
I don't know, maybe something happened in transit.
They don't give a hoot. Not in
I don't know who any of these people are, but I'm intrigued. Well, for those who have no idea what the fuck we're talking about today,
then a bird
Chloe Roma
got to
and the Honey Badger Brigade, to be more exact, Honey Badger Radio, led by and founded by Allison Tiemann, crewed and staffed by people like Dr. Ran Rickham, Mike Christensen, Hannah Wallen,
have to make
I'm forgetting Girl writes, what's name? What is her last name? What is her last name? It's not coming to me. Fuck me. Girl writes what? I can't remember her name right now. I'll blather it out when it comes to me in a second. The Prem Weeper, the Doge in charge, his wife, the Stapler, and a bunch of other people. They are what we call men's rights advocates and activists. The correct term, by the way, is activists, because advocate was done to try and discredit them from the actual work that they do. Because when it comes to men's rights and people who try to vouch for them, there's this very sneaky thing that any person who's against them like to do, especially radfems, where they will tell people, actually, feminists really do care about men, as they stab them in the spine for the 53rd time, and then denounce any person, including women, who would dare fight for men's rights, incels, and the women, pick-me's. It is a constant cycle that happens a lot. However, honey badgers have existed since I've been in high school, which means they've been alive for, years as an organization and as a group of colleagues or a group of friends. It's not uncommon to see them if you look for where they are, because they've been pretty much demonetized and constantly shit upon by the YouTube algorithm and by their political rivals. Like, name a popular feminist, and they're one of the political rivals. We're going to be looking at a live stream that they did. And we're going to be doing our own dissertation, while also taking in what they have to say. I did my analysis on my own of her. Now we're going to learn from the experts. There's your filler. So it's stupid broad versus base chads. Actually, that is incorrect, Stefan, because the majority of people who are in the Honey Badger Brigade are women. Why it's so fascinating. I wouldn't say that Chloe Roma's stupid either. She's, as far as the laws concerning Canada are involved, since all of these people are Canadian-based, they are all very smart. However, we're going to see what happens. I can't even believe I said based in 2020. What's the female Chad? Chadette? Actually, a female Chad is a honey badger. Small, cute, but vicious.
The senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity. You should not listen to men's rights advocates if you want to know what they have to say.
All right, good.
All right, and we're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Honey Badger Radio. I should be looking over here. Welcome to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian, and this is HBR Debate. I'm here with Allison, the boss. You may have noticed that things look a little bit different on my end. That's because I am no longer in Chicago. I am now in Cave Spring, Virginia, which is sort of like a part of Roanoke, Virginia. A pretty small community of 300,000. Still decent, but a tenth the size of what Chicago was. And yeah, so the lighting's a little bit different. And unfortunately, as you can see, there's a vacuum in the background, and I'm not quite set up in this room yet. I'm hoping that we will be by the end of the week. And why I'm telling you that is because my window, which is where the natural light is coming from right now, it faces east, and the sun is beginning to set, because it's about 5 o'clock my time right now. So by the time the show is over, I don't know how dark I'm going to be. So it depends on how things go, but that's
Rapidly becoming even more of a
Like Dr. Ramercan, but Allison is boss. Indeed. You see, it's surprising, because before I actually paid attention and then became a fan of the Doctor, and then became a fan of Honey Badger Radio, because I saw the Doctor and then found out about HBR, if you were to believe any person who ever asked or told you about Honey Badger Radio, they would tell you that they are a group of misogynists. Which, women hating women, interesting. But if you actually go over all of the lore that's behind Honey Badger Radio, even including their very brief stint where Allison unfortunately wandered into the dregs of the blood sport, you know, race warski Tonkasaw era Bloodsport. If you actually looked at their track record, they've never been any of the things they've been accused of. Ne'er, not a once. Ne'er, not a stitch. Not a stotch, not a rap. Nothing. Not a damn thing. And yet, every single person that they've ever spoken out against, any person that they've made content for, very much in Mike's case, every single video that's a part of the Dr. Ramakan versus the World playlist, almost every single person on that playlist that's not, you know, one of the anti-SAW jokes that he has with people that he agrees with and talks to and is friends with, and is at least amicable with, like Bearing, or Sargon, or Dev, or Art Warhammer, or any of the other people out here. Every single one of them, at some point, has become the exact thing that they have described. From Pig Puncher, to the Janitor, to Alicia Day, to Anita Sarkeesian, to Zoe Quinn. All of the biggest names, and even some of the smaller ones, what Dev would call crumb tubers. They're all in there. Every single one of them. At some point in time, whether it was in the past, in the present, or what we were going to consider the political future. Every single one of them are in there. They've never missed. But because the algorithm promotes people who are popular and demotes people who are not popular, you probably would have never heard of them. You remember that shit? Warski and whatnot? Oh yeah. Bloodsports is a wild thing. That's the reason why nobody likes it. The biggest problem, and this is the reason, none of the people who do Bloodsports, especially if they're left-wing, are going to tell you this, but this is the reason why nobody likes Bloodsports. It is the lowest common denominator and the most dangerous form of streaming possible. When it started, when it was originally, I tell a joke about you, you tell a joke about me, and we roast each other on the airwaves, that originally was Bloodsports. You know, that's when everything was cool. That was in the between time, between 2009 to 2011. It is when it took the turn for the worst at the beginning of 2012, all the way through, I'd at least say, 2016, where it was out of fucking control. From Nick Fuentes threatening Brittany Venti on camera with a fucking pocket knife, to, of course, the very famous, I'm gonna box you live on camera and then never show up, Andy Warski arc, until Andy, you know, unfortunately did the thing. And Ian Miles Chong swatting someone, having the dog killed and flashbanged. All of that was what is currently what the left wing is doing. They are chasing and they're simping for 2014 to 2016 Bloodsports. Almost all of them. Because all they've done was they changed Bloodsports into something that everybody can politically get behind. Rather than the part where, you know, they're threatening people's lives, threatening to dox people on camera, threatening to dox their girlfriend. You know, the shit that somehow Vosh Jorhans came away with a W against when he went up against Ethan Ralph on camera. They instead do the thing where they chase the political cycle and they make content on Twitch and they talk about it in front of audiences of people who are too lazy to do the research and do not ask questions. They just run with the humor and they're like, ha 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 ha, look at us for being so cool. And this used to be what somebody like Destiny did. This is what Hassan Abi does, you know, the young nepotistic nephew of the Young Turks. And this is definitely what Vosh does. This is definitely what Papa Bird Jake of formerly the Bible Reloaded fame does and continues to do. This is what almost all of them do. Every single one of them. TubeTube is alike. It's starting to fall apart though, because people are learning to ask questions. Just some information for you. You just hear crazy ass stories. Jeff Holiday losing his shit because of Kevin Logan. Yes! That was fucking golden. What? Those time periods? That day? Come and gone. Can't have it no more. We shouldn't have had it in the first place. That's my opinion. But in this political landscape, the majority of Bloodsport is based on shit throwing. And no matter what you do, shit throwing is not how you get things done. Can't. There is no work, there is no labor that can be achieved by mocking your opponent on camera. All you do is you look like an asshole. If you're going to mock the opponent on camera, you have to mark their ideas, not them directly. But you see, Bloodsport's not about getting the facts right. It's about doing dumb shit for the point of, this is our echo box, and we're going to do what we do in our echo chamber. And that is, it don't butter nobody's biscuit. It really doesn't. At its best, it potentially makes everybody look like a sick, deranged, evil person who only cares if what they're saying gives them the advantage through Schrodinger's asshole, right? If they say it and people like it, they'll lean into it. If they say it and people don't like it, come on, bro, come on, I didn't mean it. It was a joke. It was a joke. Until it's not a joke. And at its worst, Bloodsport is the reason why streaming has so many of the security issues it has today. Not just from swatting, not just from unironic doxing and then harassment of said doxed person. And when we're talking about dox, we're not talking about, oh, you used my name on the internet. No, we're talking about, I put out every single piece of information about you, and then I told my followers, destroy their lives. That's doxing, for any person who might be confused. And doing so, not to prove a point, right? So, perfect example. The big gay wop, Carlos Maza, being outed by revealing that his mother actually has all the money, and that he is a champagne socialist, that is not doxing. Revealing that the H3H3 podcast and Ethan Klein and his wife Gila are loaded off of money, and they've now turned into the very thing that they claimed they were fighting against, as they buy a Bel Air mansion, and releasing the actual worth of their mansion. Whether or not they say where it is, which is irrelevant, because they're in a gated community to begin with, that's not doxing. But revealing where that house is on camera, on a live stream, or in a video, say, like the Paul brothers have before, that's doxing. Revealing the address of a person in Texas who's a voice actor, so that they can be fired from the job at Funimation, or something like that. Depending on whether or not that's legal documentation that is publicly available. If it's publicly available, submitted to the court, it's in the court files, you paid the money that you have to get, an exorbitant amount of money, by the way, to get those files, and they're all on record, it's not doxing. Publishing that to the internet, that's also not doxing. Illegally obtaining it, because you bought the information directly from the company that sold it, which in this case would be Spokio, finding out where that person lives based on that information, and then prying through their social history, technically, that's also not doxing. That's just really fucking creepy. That's dedication, but still not doxing. The point here is, if you have to do it and it's illegal, and you're doing it for the intentions of bringing harm to a person, not so that you can point at them and say, oh my god, look at this man, he says he's for you, but he's actually a fucking commie. There's the difference. But the main reason why you can't have Bloodsport is because it's a different time period. It's a different world. Even if the people can handle their cope on the internet, the websites can't. The companies don't want it. They want to leave it behind. They don't want to see that happen. So, cut. That's all. That's a wrap. That's it. That's it in a fucking nutshell. But even if you were to say that on Twitch of all places, people would run and say, oh no, that's not real. It's not. Listen, I don't care what fucking shitposting website you're on. I don't care if you're on Twitter. I don't care if you're a part of the $10 shitposting club. I don't care if you're on Pretty Ugly Little Liars. I don't care if you're on NeoGAF, if you're still on fucking Reset Era. I don't care if you're from Kiwi Farms of all places. And I should know, because I'm a farmer myself. It doesn't matter. None of this shit matters. And you know it doesn't matter. You're just trying to do that thing that we all do. Because you think it's funny. But here's the thing. People and their lives being ruined, bloodshed, bullshit. That's not, no, it has to stop. It has to stop. You set the precedent, and we're just dealing now with the ramifications of the consequences, because none of us can tell what the future is. And there are crazy people out there that will do shit just to fuck with people. Look at what Burner tried to do to me. And now I have to do the effort of removing a falsified strike on my channel because they really, 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 really wanted to be popular with a podcast. That's all stuff that PL would do. So many of the Eagle channels would find someone that you'd have to scratch. Absolutely. But fortunately, we have Nick Ricada for that. He has been chosen as the new feeder. Honestly, it's been happy to see Nick Ricada have a career because Kiwi Farms said, here's some shit. Nobody knew it would end up like that. Nobody predicted Weeb Wars. But boy, is it great that he was around when it did.
Like personal color, are you?
I'm increasing in melanin as time goes on.
You're decreasing your whiteness privilege or whatever it's called.
Yes, I'm turning in my white privilege card.
No, your colorism.
There you go, colorism.
Your color privilege, whatever that is. How does it work? So if you're darker, you have less color privilege, or?
No, as you...
Allison's audio is unfortunate.
No, as you get darker, you have more oppression.
Okay,
the color of your skin. But you're also genetically superior, according to many, and you're just being repressed by those evil toilet bowl complexioned white people who are actually inferior, but they also hate you. So,
but those white people could also be black people who are too light.
Yes, or black people who don't share the same opinions. They just carry water for white people. So I'm being told that. Wait, did you say something?
Oh, I have echo. Just give me a second here.
It's okay. I know what it is. Okay, we should be good. So go ahead and speak.
Actually, I think I need to fix some stuff here. How's that?
I mean, sounds fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're good. So I'm being told that Allison, I fixed it. I'm pretty sure I fixed it. I'll have to figure out why that happened later, but right now this is good. So okay. So
yeah, Allison's audio was horrible there.
Something is we're looking at this video from a new, I guess you could say newish, voice against. I'm gonna put it in the words that I think she would put them in, but her voice is against radical feminism, and she tries to bring attention to men's issues. Some of them legal and or political, many of them social and or cultural. Her channel is called Chloe Army. That's CHLOE Army. Her name that we know of, it's probably not her real name, but she goes by Chloe Roma, because I think that she's originally from Romania, or she has like gypsy lineage, and I don't use the word gypsy as a pejorative. I know that's sometimes it's seen that way. I don't really know what the rules are in terms of the gypsy thing, but there's that. So anyway.
The rules seem to change. I think probably gypsies are considered to have color privilege too.
They can. It depends on whether or not there's political leverage against the appropriate people. So, but
find that out. You have to ask V. We could all ask V, but I don't know if that would count, because I think they'd say V has privilege because he's a doctor, despite still living in Romania. Oh, there's that. You weren't kidding. I know I wasn't kidding. You know how many times people have screamed at me that I have bad audio, and then I hear shit like that, and I'm like, are you sure? You know what bad audio sounds like?
Yeah, so her name is Chloe Roma. She makes videos. They're usually really short. She literally stands in front of her bathroom mirror with a phone, and she shouts about, double standards and things like that. And she became extremely popular. Like, she's at, I don't know, like, well over 100,000 subscribers now on her YouTube channel.
Which always, when you're in your second decade of plugging away at these issues on the internet, that always makes you feel great. Someone just...
Yeah. Well, I think the reason for it, though, is that, she doesn't go... She does... The content's very surface level. So if you know about this stuff already...
That is another thing I actually forgot to mention. We haven't actually looked at any of the things that Chloe's made. Mainly because, on my audience, I assume you're all intelligent enough, smart enough, resourceful enough, and learned enough at this point, especially if you've been following my black ass, to be able to do your own research, right? He is indeed pronouncing her name Chloe. It's pronounced Chloe. It is Chloe. It's just, I don't know. I don't know. If I ever get to speak to the Doge himself, I'll have to ask him. But it is Chloe. Shit, now he's got me fucking doing it. But Chloe's content is very surface level, and that's kind of why it's so popular. She picks a particular issue, she pulls up a video of context, she plays something, she speaks over it, and tries to bang out the issue in the time allotted, as long as it would take to be on TikTok. When she does make content for YouTube, it's maybe a little bit longer, but it's nowhere near as long as her self-indulgent streams, where she's with her boyfriend Callum, and potentially possibly her daughter. Her daughter's not on camera as often as one might assume they would be for a single mom. That's relevant to anything that she does, by the way. But the work that she does, I could do. That's what I'm saying. It is as easy for me as a bedroom replier as I am. That you could do exactly the same thing that Roma's doing. And you probably would not be as successful because you're not a woman. Because you don't have this built-in brand immunity where you're a woman, you're on the internet, and the audacity of a woman saying these things just boggles the mind. And then to have ready-made, prepared refutation for people saying you're not a real victim. This really didn't happen to you. Most of us don't have that advantage. Even if we wanted it, we wouldn't use it because it kind of goes in a circle. Like I said last time, you have to prove yourself. The same way that I have to still prove myself, as far as people are concerned. She has to prove herself in this arena. This arena has a lot higher of a stipulation, because here, you're giving false hope to people if you're grifting off of them. Where if you fuck up, when you go down, you're bringing everybody down with you. Whereas if I were to fuck up, just being a shitposter, a satirist, or a streamer, that's just me, myself. But then, technically, the same thing happens to y'all. If I go down, then people can say, oh, weren't you a follower of Carl? Wasn't he revealed to be a pedophile? They do that thing that they all do, where they just throw out the buzzwords, and then hope that people either don't research what they're talking about, so that they can find out, oh, actually, he's not a pedophile, he's a pedophile hunter. Oh, actually, he's never once diddled a child. He actually investigates and worked with the police. You know, that thing. Being ironic and being fucking very, very smug on the internet. That thing is the thing that Chloe's stuck in right now. This is like the baby phase of creation, where you pop up and people are like, ooh, who's this? And you have to prove that you're going to be here for a while. Then yes, association is accessory and accomplice. It is. It really is. That's why all those accounts talk so much about, oh my god, your follower count, your follower count, your follower count. They literally see your follower count as being the same thing as a ready-made presentation source. If you have 500 people who follow you, that means all 500 of those people agree with every single opinion you have, period. And they're all ready and waiting to drop on someone's head should you tell them, haha, that's stupid. Example. Who remembers my coverage of... Words are hard. Who remembers my coverage of both Tomato Magica and my coverage of, Sweet Bean Comics? Manic Pixie Nightmare Girls. Her name's not coming to my mind right now. That girl. That was the very thing that happened with New Guy. She assumed that because Oni laughed at what the comic was saying, that it meant he was harassing her. So, when Mallory, that's her name. So when Mallory accused him of this, he said, lol, well no, what the fuck are you talking about? Or, for example, when Salty DK Dan continues, because he's still doing it, to harass JonTron of all people, saying, lol, why won't you fucking cope and cape for Black Lives Matter? Why won't you use your platform? Same thing. If you look at people's followers and you assume that every single one of them agrees with them on every single issue, you have to have brainworms. There's no other explanation. You have to be stupid. Because there's no way you can make such an assumption unless you think the exact same way about your audience. Because now you're telling on yourself. I mean, feel free to tell on yourself. I ain't gonna stop you. But I'd figure a person would be a lot smarter than that. And yeah, size queens are fucking annoying. The thing that really disappoints me most about it is exactly how many of them are size queens. It's really annoying, especially in Salty's case, because Salty's entire cope is, well, I built my channel on my own. I built my brand with my own hard work. That means I'm allowed to harass people. No. That's not how any of this works. Stop. Shut up. Let's get back to it.
She's not going to say anything you've never heard before. She's not going to, like, enlighten you. She's not going to bring up significant data, but she also doesn't dig super deep either. It's basically like, oh, men should be, have access to their kids. And I'm not saying this to be dismissive. I just think that if you are operating on the surface level, you're going to get a lot more subscribers faster because what you're putting out there seems really accessible. And I think that the majority of the people who are likely sub to her or follow her, they were probably already primed for this anyway. Like, I only recently subbed to her about 2 weeks ago, and it was only because I wanted to see what she was going to talk about. I've seen her, people have sent me links to her videos a bunch of times. They're like, get her on the show, talk to her, blah, blah, blah. And I gotta tell you, I tried through Facebook, I tried through Twitter, I subscribed to her so I can jump on one of her live streams and ask her, and she just hasn't responded. I'm not gonna say it's for, this reason or that, that's sort of beside the point, but I have reached out to her as, Badger live streams, as, like, the putting out there who I represent, what we work with, and, I haven't heard back, so. But that's an aside. I have noticed that recently she's been getting criticisms. There's a channel that that Lindsay watches. It's called Think Before You Sleep, and the guy is, I'm gonna say he's got, like, pretty MGTOW friendly content, where he basically mostly talks about, in the media, like the way that women, sort of points out negative or bad female behavior in the media and reality television, in like shows like The Bachelor, things like that. Dr. Phil, whatever, right? And he made a video about Chloe Roma. He calls her a chameleon. This is something that I couldn't say for sure this is true or not, because I think that Allison, Karen, Hannah, Prim, Anna Cherry, like every woman that's gotten involved with this has been called a chameleon, right? I mean, you've been called a chameleon, like an infiltrator, like someone that's gonna just eat the MRM from the inside out because you're a woman.
Well, from the inside the MR, men's rights, I don't know if I get a lot of that. I might have at the beginning, but it was pretty. It was pretty a small amount. I don't know. I can't. At this point in time, I'm so, like, criticism is so. It's almost like I can't. Yeah, it's just like, well, okay, that's just your opinion, man.
Yeah. Well, I'm just like, you've been at this for a long time, but I think that when you guys started out.
Wouldn't pause. You are correct, Joss. The MGTOW have been very silent, and I think it's because they know that if they were to appear, they would all just be called incels. Well, we already had that talk about that, so I'm not going to repeat what I said before about it. If you want to know what my opinion is about that, go to the back end of part 2 on the last live stream and just watch from there.
There were some skeptics because there are people who just couldn't, and this is the thing, there are just so many people who just couldn't conceive that a woman would go out of her way to talk about men's issues. And I think that this is why you had skeptical men. And I would argue that today it's probably a lot.
There would indeed be a crusade.
Someone who advocates for men. I'm not saying it's mainstream, but I think it's a lot more widely accepted by people than it was, say, in 2011 or something, right?
I don't know if it's more accepted insofar as people seem to have bigger fish to fry than fucking around with us weirdos. In a lot of ways. I hate to say it that way. Okay. But before we continue, I'll actually put my little pitch in. Please do send in those super chats because they help us afford the Badger Badger Cave, and also justify to YouTube why we should continue to exist. So thank you for that. All right, let's continue.
Okay, I did get a couple super chats, and then we'll go ahead and start the video. Dragon the Suit Thanks guys for the super chats. Dragon the Suit Gaming gives us $5 and just shouts, Brian, thank you for acknowledging me. And yes, I am still here. I just needed a week to get all of my ducks in a row, and I'll be doing shows like normal from here on out. Egregious Charles gives us $5 and says, Baron of Hair says that about you all the time, Allison. Yeah, he says that about all of us, though, right?
Yeah, but he's basically, like, it's difficult to take it seriously because he's basically saying everybody in the men's rights movement is infiltrating the men's rights movement. Like, at this point, there's no sheep.
There are no real MRAs.
Yeah, it's all wolves.
It's all controlled opposition.
Yeah, exactly. And furthermore, I don't know what to do with his criticisms anymore. Yeah. Because, like, I can tell him, you're lying about what I'm saying. You're misrepresenting what I'm saying over and over and over again. So I just call him grandma and tell him to stop nagging and make his mentorship program.
Yeah, there you go.
I've given up on you, Baron of Hair.
Dragon the Suit Gaming gives us $2 and says, you have been missed, brother. How's the move? It was very, very tiring. Like, we were out, Lindsay and I were out of commission for like 3 days. Physically out. Like, we only recently, like today, this morning, returned to some semblance of normalcy. And even then, we still have more to do. But thanks for your kind words, but it's a little bit of a aside. But thank you. All right, so this video by Chloe Roma is actually entitled, Who Are Incels and What Threat Do They Pose to the Men's Rights Movements? She pluralizes movements. I think, I'm not really sure why. I don't know if she sees, like, say, A Voice for Men, and NCFM and Cafe and us as being separate movements. But she pluralizes movements for some reason.
Ooh. It is not... Ah, shit. Is it rebooting again? It is not long before it becomes human issues and then magically transforms into women's issues. Realistically, yes. There's good reason to be suspicious of women who start talking about men's issues. Because, thing I just read. You're right. But, there, right now, and I'm not saying that you're not correct, you are correct. The problem that I see there is the but that I have to say, and the but is that it's become an issue where we can say that about anything. Anything has become subverted by some other movement, where there actively is planned, targeted opposition. It is brain melting because it happens frequently. Because realistically, if you think about it, like a normal person, if you look at it as like groups, and all these groups represent a piece of a fragment of a sliver of a structural whole. If you can assemble all the pieces together in the right places, you get to control whatever that thing's talking about. This is what Atheism Plus was. It ransacked and hijacked all of the atheists to start talking about, well, feminist lensed critique. Take the Bible Reloaded, shove it full of the virus that is feminism in Atheism Plus, and shake it around a couple few thousand times, you get Hero and Jake. Then, swirl it around with some pink pills, and crack it like an egg, and you get Hannah and Jake. It's kind of how it works. That's what they're currently doing to video games right now. Lobbying companies to take a stand against racism in video games. Like it hasn't happened 50 billion times before. Because if you're not against fascists, that means you're obviously a fascist. It's the biggest Kafka trap. And the problem is that it's a Kafka trap that gets used so fucking often that people still haven't learned how to deal with Kafka traps. You tell them to go fuck themselves. And you keep telling them to go fuck themselves. You don't bend the ear and say, wait, guys, listen, wait, I think they have a point. They never do. Because the point is, blah, 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 you're a bigot, you're evil, you're a sinner. That's it. Once you go saying, no, actually, I think I have sinned, that's when they have you. We've seen this happen with every single business and industry. If you let someone convince you, yes, we have a problem with voice chats in games. People are just so abusive to women. As if we did not all live through Xbox Live. As if I didn't have a white man from Tampa, Florida tell me gargle my balls when I set off my first fucking warhead kill streak. If you sit there and you let them tell you lies that you know are false, but you don't want to look like an asshole at that time, you're going to allow them to fuck everyone else because you don't want to look like a bigot. I don't care if you're doing it because of money. I don't care if you're doing it because you want to be nice and sympathetic to their plights and cause. I don't care. You have to tell them to go fuck themselves. That's the only choice now. Because if you don't, you're not going to get to speak again. I'm not going to get to speak again. And I'll be damned if somebody decides to speak for me. It's just how it is. It's just how it has to be now. We have to be aggressive. We have to socially haze again. Because unless we socially haze, we're not going to know if they can take it. Excuse me. There seems to be a rapping at my chamber door. Yes. There she goes. My brother's bottom bitch's aunt says hi. What was I saying? Ah, yes. We have to socially haze. If we don't socially haze again, we're going to keep seeing this problem happen over and over and over and over and over and over and over again until they get everything. And once they have everything, that's when they'll actually take the mask off finally and say, actually, fuck all of you. It's our thing now. Like they have 50 billion times before. It's not 100%, but it happens so frequently. I maintain be vigilant, but accept the olive branch so long as you don't see a weapon in the other hand. I remember that. They forced everyone to fight in their arena, specifically feminism. Your religion is false and your gods are impotent. Rinse and repeat. Absolutely. The only god that I follow is the gods of Adonicism. And Adonicism is a religion of praising women's butts. You ain't gonna take... My gods are not false in that religion. Because the only religion that I follow is the pressing. Let's continue.
So we're gonna listen to what she has to say. Like I said, I think in my mind her content's relatively surface level. It is really digestible, and she almost puts together like sketches, although not this one. And she's very popular on TikTok, I guess, and like I don't know where else, maybe Facebook or something. So let's have a listen.
What's up, guys?
And I apologize. Her energy is a little bit different.
It's definitely different than mine.
Yeah, it's definitely different than yours.
Well, yeah, I only get that energetic when the rage rises within me.
Well, maybe
even then
I don't know.
Yeah, even then I don't even know if I get energetic so much as
Just angry.
just angry, furious. Okay.
Ball of fuck. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Turning into a ball of fuck.
It's your girl, Chloe Roma, and welcome to my baking channel called Baking with BS. That's exactly what I just said to you. This isn't Rachel Ray. Today's YouTube video is brought to you by my bathroom mirror, because I'm feeling anxious about it, and this is the best way for me to do my best work. So welcome to Who Are the Incels, and how do they pose a threat on men's rights movements? Now I know what you're thinking to yourself.
What?
You're
Okay, please. I know that we may be fellow travelers at this juncture, but that was really that grammar really made me pain. Oh God. Okay, continue.
I just want to say before as I go on, Chloe Roma, if you see this video, I will be more than happy to roll out the red carpet and have you on the show to talk to you personally. So if you feel like at any point we misrepresent your arguments, you can always come on. I've attempted to reach out to you several times, so just keep that in mind. Okay.
probably either thinking, oh,
I'd also like to extend Chloe Roma if you ever see any of my shit. Hold on, let me put myself in the big screen. 1 second. Chloe Roma, if you ever feel that you're mad about anything that I say here, keep in mind 2 things. 1, I'm a satirist, and I think in 5 different dimensions. So if you're mad that I said something you don't like, let me know. I'll set some shit up. 2, most of these are just jokes, but if you're mad about criticisms, well, don't do these things. Don't do these things. Alright. Let us continue. Oh, another thing. I said this on the other one as well, but I guess I'll repeat this, because I'm assuming that someone's going to do it anyways. Incels are not a threat to a men's rights movement. They are the fucking reason why the men's rights movement needs energy and has to happen. Because an incel, an involuntary celibate man, is a result of 2 things. 1, you demanding that young boys be taught not how to rape, right? Because that's one of their favorite fucking catchphrases. Teach boys how not to rape. And constantly pussifying the shit out of them. Don't speak to women like this. Don't do this to women. Hold the door for women. Treat women like goddesses. Never talk back to women. Make a woman feel safe. Make a woman feel secure. Simp for women. Simping is king shit. Blue, 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 blue. Put that junk in a boy's head. Shake him around 50 billion fucking times. And then tell him, you know what? You wearing those heels? You might be trans. And suddenly, you realize why women are so goddamn angry. And why there are some people who even want actual 1940s misogynist men just walk up and slap him on the ass. Because the pussification of the man creates an incel. If a guy doesn't have the ability to say, you know, I don't want to be stepped on unless I want it, but also at the same time, bitch, if you think I'm about to stand up and sit here, listen to you tell me how I'm not cool enough because I didn't let you fuck me socially, financially, emotionally, romantically, at your behest, because you demand to be treated like a queen, but instead of treating me like the god king that I am, you treat me like a fucking slave. A man who recognizes this shit and is able to say, you know what? Actually, fuck you. I'm gonna go over here now. If they're not a big towel, they're just a guy. If they look at that and they're like, yes, ma'am. Yes, honey. As though it's like, hello, it's time for your 4 a.m. emasculation. That is an incel. Because that mindset leads them to think, why can't I find women? Why can't I get a woman to touch me? Why can't I earn sex? What have I done wrong? I did everything you asked for. I followed all the rules. Look, see? I have every single hole in my punch card filled. That means I earned a PP touch. That's an incel. That's the environment that creates an incel. And rather than blaming the fucking symptom of the goddamn problem, I like to throw my issues at the source. So I throw my fucking beats at the hands of women who said all of that shit to my generation, and I tell them, hey, go fuck yourself. Because now we have to undamage these guys. Because they're permanently damaged goods, mentally in the head. They have resentment issues. They have superiority and inferiority issues. And they're maybe 2 steps away and 1 rejection from going into Elliot Rodger mode, where they really hate women and everyone else too. Is it just because they haven't gotten magical vagina juice to help them think clearly like a real Chad? No. It's because they have deep, unfucking solved problems that they have to unsolve and solve with the help of a healthy partner. But they're so fucking mentally damaged that they don't know what a healthy partner is. So they're just looking for a partner, hoping that it fills the void in them. Not realizing the reason that void is there is because somebody snatched their fucking heart a long time ago. And their mind too. And if you let it go on for too long, their balls. Same shit with women too. Because femcells exist because of the same issue that exists with these men. On one hand, like I said last time, it is a entitlement issue. But it's a much different kind of entitlement issue for both genders. With the female incel, they, as well as the male incel, are looking at the dating pool the way that an entitled woman looks at the dating pool, but on different levels. The entitled woman looks at the world through the 80-20 goggles. The reason why you have so many women saying that they're oppressed by the patriarchy isn't because they're actually oppressed by some man somewhere, either a real one, an abstract one, or the soulless face of a corporation that tells them that they need to make themselves look hot for dudes. That's not what's happening. It's that they're out there in the wild looking at high-value men and comparing themselves only to them. Anything underneath that threshold of theirs, you know, the stereotypical, I will only date 6-foot, high-value, really wealthy guys, those guys don't exist past this line of what I'll call sexual poverty. So everybody underneath the sexual poverty line, the incels and the femcells, they don't see each other either, because the femcells are looking at the hot dudes the same way that these entitled bitches are looking at them. But the problem is, you have the same issue on both sides, but with different terminology. Because really, what is a scrote if not the same thing as a roasty? What is a Stacy if not also the rich bitches that won't look at you? What is a pick-me if not a woman who won't give you attention? They have words that describe each other. All 3 of them in this vortex on this 3-dot paragraph line. Between Chadism, incels, and femcells, they form a holy trinity where one side hates each other, but for different fucking reasons of what they think they lack, that if they had it, they would finally be up there. That's the problem. That's why if you were to take a femcel and an incel and put them in the same room together, you would expect them to be like, what, you hate men? I hate guys too. You hate women? I hate women too. That wouldn't happen. Because the femcel would look at the incel and say, ugh, he's not what I'd fuck. I want to fuck his brother, not him. And the incel would look at her and say, ugh, look at this. Look at this bitch. You're nothing of what I wanted to have for myself. She's what I want. You're just a Bridget. And that Stacy, that's the one I want to turn into a roasty. You're just a fucking roasty after she's been used up by all these dudes. That's the problem. Both of these two on this pyramid here have potentially been lied to by the person up here. Because more than likely, on this line of sexual poverty, the person up here is the same person who will tout power feminism and tell both of these two, if you just simp for us and you give us your money and your faith and your attention, you'll get everything you need and more. If you just become like us and you try to work on yourself, try to be pretty, follow the status quo, you'll get everything you need. And over here, if I just try to be more like them up there, I won't end up like that guy over there. You have 2 miserable people looking at each other across the fucking bows of a firing squad, looking up at the potential image of what they want to be, hating the other one for what they're not, and hoping that if they just try a little bit harder, pay a little bit more into the hole that they're already in, that they'll dig themselves out. And so they dig themselves deeper and 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 deeper into the hole. So that every single time they don't self-actualize, they come right back around to where they started. Because nobody told them that they can just say, go fuck yourself, I'm gonna go do my thing now. And maybe along the way, that incel sees that femcel, and he thought about some shit, and he's like, you know what? There's no reason for me to hate people the way that I do. I just need to work on myself, and I'm just gonna go work on myself for a bit. Whether they become a MGTOW or not is inconsequential to this. The journey matters more than the destination. They go on that journey of self-discovery. They work on their shit, and then the next time they come across that potential femcel, the barbs that he would have risen to that would have justified her own confirmation bias, not there. Suddenly, all of a sudden, as though by magic, now it's like, oh, he didn't rise to my barbs. He passed my shit test. Well, now I'm interested. First you had my attention, now you got me wet. Then they can clap the cheeks. That's when that happens. But realistically, especially with how hard it's the constant hammering of guys, until you fix the dudes, you can't get anywhere close to fixing the femmes. Period. Mainly because the femcells will only listen to other women. Which, if you were listening the last time I said this shit, is the exact fucking reason women in the MRM is so important. Because if it's just guys saying, listen, we need rights, then you'll always have people saying, lol, go fuck yourself. You don't deserve rights. Look at you. You're an incel. You don't get to talk. When you're up there, that's when you're allowed to speak. It's the shortcut to jump over that hurdle. Because it's kind of like being in an organization like Skills USA, right? The catch-22 of industry business. How do you jump over the hurdle of needing to have learning experience in a job that demands you have X amount of years of prerequisites when the job itself is supposed to be where you get the prerequisite? You get referrals, right? To get that referral, you need to do some networking. You have to go talk to people. You gotta go through the shitter. And then someone will give you that prerequisite. Women speaking about issues, no matter what issue it is a immediate prerequisite that usually, when it happens the right way around, is kind of like, to take for example, Tara Reid. When Me Too was made, when a woman said, you need to listen and believe me, and people asked questions saying, well, where was he? What were you wearing? What were you doing? Why did you go out at night at this time? For the purposes of a booty call. Why did you do those things? What were you doing? Why are you? Why are women? When you ask those questions, what did you hear? Oh my God, how dare you? You need to listen and believe. Women should not need to be questioned. You should not ask these questions. You're a victim blamer, right? Put a man in that position. Imagine the billions and billions of insults they said. Same thing here. You have to have women, because if you don't have women, you'll lack two things you need, which is understanding and compassion, and basically the woman to serve some level of a purpose. It's not the only purpose to have a woman. Let me be that exquisitely clear, because I know if it gets taken out of context, someone's gonna run away to the goddamn funny farm with this bullshit. It is not the only reason. It's not even the most important reason, but it is a reason to have women advocate for men the same way it was for men to advocate for women, which is the same shit I said the first time. You needed to have men when women needed to get suffrage because women were not looked to in that way in society. Same shit here. Right now, in this modern age, men are not looked to in society to be any more than disposable. So, you need women to say, no, 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 this man has value. We're not gonna throw him in the trash can. Fuck that shit. Fuck that noise. Move! You're stopping us. I have work to do. It doesn't matter if it's a feminist that has finally seen the light, or at least has now questioned herself. Like, say, Cassie J making the red pill. It doesn't matter if it's an e-whore, an e-girl, taking a man by the hand before pounding his brains out in the back room and sending him on his way, and then doing it over and over again. Not even for money, because she just wants to. Because these guys need a W, and they also need a nut. Or, if it's a fuckboy, like me, doing the exact same thing, and then also being able to sit up on a camera and advocate for the shit. Same context. Shit don't change. Until you solve that problem, there, in this dynamic I just explained here, nothing changes. It all stays the same. It'll never stop. Because on one hand, if you constantly present it as a problem, and then you reframe the problem as, and that's why you need to be part of our team, you can always be able to sell it as a point of power, privilege, and politics. Because that's what feminism does. That's what the feminism movement, in any form it takes, does. Here's the reason why you need to be on our team. We actually believe in the same shit. You just have been lied about what we actually believe. It's like the cult of personality, if not a cult of personality. Here you have what a person actually says and what they actually believe, and then you have the people underneath them that say, no, that's not what she meant. They actually meant this. And then underneath it, you have the actual cult itself. Gotten away with it far too long. So, you have to cut out the middleman and just do stuff. Acts, works, assistance. Only then can you figure out who's who and what's what. Base level, it don't do nothing. It has never done anything. But how long have people been blocking assistance for guys like that? How long have they been telling men, basically, you don't have any real problems? And then when they come forward and they actually do have a problem, they get fucking laughed at. If not by the world, by their communities. Same shit, different day. And different flavor. Yeah, I'll have to show that one. Alright, so, that was a lot. I'm pretty sure a lot of y'all had questions. We can talk about that for a second. Let me use some comments. I was incel until I was 20. But severe lack of game, lack of experience, and not marketing myself well. Also, socially retarded. Fun fact. The reason I nabbed a girlfriend and wife was because she was impressed that I was working 3 jobs at once, 7 days a week, because I was hustling. I'd really be happy to mentor young men. Some of these guys just need help. Ooh, I got big Allison vibes with that men have worth. I dig it. Yes. Now, the shit that I just said about the male incels is the same shit you have to do with the female incels. Because realistically, the female incels, they have the same issues, but a bit different. I'm getting sweaty. I worked myself up into a sweat. I don't want to get my jacket dirty, because I don't want to have to wash it. We just cleaned a giant pile of boy poop, and I don't want my jacket to smell like poop later. The female incel problem is also not a threat, but it's a lot more volatile than dealing with men. Realistically, dealing with the male incel is just as simple as sitting him down, asking him what does he think that he's lacking, that he needs in order to feel like a real man, and convincing him that not only does he not need those things, but that all of those things that he thinks he needs and more will naturally come to him if he just solves the problems that he has. And if he works actually hard at it. If he doesn't say, no, I'm trying the steps, but I still haven't gotten pussy. If he doesn't do that, then he actually attempts. If he does the steps, he'll recover. Female incels are a different problem entirely. Because you're talking about changing a value structure and a world philosophy. That is much harder to do. You technically have the same problem with the incel, but realistically, the male incel's mind is, I need booty, I want booty, 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 I need booty, I want booty. On a loop. Female incel's mind, from what I can tell, from talking to them, asking questions, is, I'm not worthy, I can't do it. I'm not worthy, I have no value. I'm not worthy, I look like a fucking dumpster. I'm not worthy, I'm not pretty. I'm not worthy, those girls are prettier than me. I'm not worthy. Why would they want me when they can have her? I am not worthy. Insert problem here. It's always, I don't have what it takes to do what I have to do to get a good man. So, comma, I'm going to blank until I can blank. To solve that problem, you have to now turn your view inside the woman. Because it's not just as simple as if you tickle her and she has an orgasm, she'll be normal, right? That's a lack of self-confidence. Now, most guys, in my experience that I've worked with, their issue was entirely linked to, I don't feel or I don't look like I'm getting the results that I need to feel like I'm a real man. With women, it's a bit more psychological. Because now you have to deal with the baggage that they had from other relationships that have now fueled their assumptions about the opposite gender or even the same gender if they're lesbians. That's why it's harder. You have to deal with 15 problems, where with the guy you had to deal with 5. And all 15 of those problems she has are interlinked and complex, like chain link armor. You have to get through her armor to convince her of the problem to fix it. To fix the problem, it's not just as simple as, hey, would you like some dick? Sure, the dick will make them feel better, but it's not gonna undo the fact that, man, why is this guy railing me? He could have better pussy. I don't come like the other girls. I'm not as loud as the other girls. It's always going to be, I have not done something as good as someone else. My suggestion would be, well, on top of having a good man next to them, giving them the encouragement to be better and to try to be better every day, to not magically become an ugly duckling to a beautiful swan overnight, but to slowly fix the problem over time. That's what I would suggest. It'd make a better attempt, at least. One moment, I need to go uncle. I can hear screaming. And it's not my own. It appears my nephew has pooped himself again. The women folk shall handle it while I'm in here. Because if they call me back, it's gonna be because he needs a whooping. But like I was saying, to fix the e-girl, the way that you would fix the incel, because technically all femcells are e-girls in some capacity, because it helps. Because you can technically hate the very thing that you think that you're not, while at the same time projecting that you're more than what you are, while still being deeply insecure about how you feel on the inside. To fix the mindset of what would make a devout and unbelievably broken person change their mindset, You have to essentially get through their armor. You have to get through their armor and fuck them in the heart, pussy. I feel like I'm memeing, but I'm not. That's what you have to do. It's what I did to my ex-fiance before she immediately revealed that she was becoming more racist again because she thought that she could do better because she was convinced that I had to be cheating. Never cheated on her. Near not nada. Never even thought about another woman. It's what I did to her and what I usually do with some women who need it. Fuck them in the heart, pussy. Help build up their self-esteem so that they can see themselves the way that I see them. And the way that you should see them, if you're dating them, is with hearts in your eyes. You know? Boom, 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 boom. Ooh, look at you. Ooh, ain't you a snack? You a whole dinner. In fact, you can feed 5. In fact, come here, I want you to feed me. That's what you have to do. It's not going to be magical, and it's not going to happen all at once. That's guaranteed. The emotions of a woman are very difficult and complex, so much so that I myself asked a lesbian, and we had an entire deliberative discussion about it, and neither of us could figure out what would even make a person like this. And she's as much as a gashbanger as I am. But a whole ass wife. Even we don't know. But that's what it takes. The amount of effort that's put into it versus the amount of mouth given to talking about it. It's a giant scale that someone's pushing their arm down on. Because it's easy to mock these things at a distance over there than it is to talk about how you would even begin to solve the problem. Solutions don't make live stream money and donations and super chats. Mocking people and saying, "You've fallen in love with the internet girl," or "You've fallen in love with the internet boy," they make more money than solving and giving issues. So, it is what it is. I don't concern myself with those things. I see problem, I fix problem. Simple as that. Let's read some comments. 7. Shit, that's my brain. Booty 24/7. Shit, you see how many people reassure themselves and each other with, "I'm you're worthy and you have value, I'm and you're enough." It feels like an immediate dead end. I can't blame them for feeling despair and lashing out at that rate. What's that line from again? Fuck their heart, pussy? No, that's me. I created that. That's mine. If somebody else has said that, I don't know where they got that from. If I got it from anywhere, it was probably from an 80s or 90s comedy. But I'm pretty sure I'm the first one to say that as a thing. I know ear pussies is from Joe Rogan. That I know. Either that or Bill Burr. I know ear pussies is from a comedian. Heart pussy? That's me. That's mine. I hear some bullshit happening. I'm gonna have to uncle again. I'll be back. One more second. 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, you flushed the toilet. Yes, you did. Now go in there. Stop wiggling your nasty booty. I meant Joji. You keep wiggling your booty. Naked toddler running around my house.
Incel, those are the virgins, right? Or, oh yeah, an incel, yeah. I was called that one time that I disagreed with that woman's biased ass opinion. Yeah, unfortunately, people like Becky's and other people really not taking it seriously or fully understand what it is, has made it so that a lot of us overlook how serious the incel community is and even what it is. So I'm here to educate you about it today. Somebody can be an incel or...
Oh, that was, oh shit. Oh, wow. Jesus fucking Christ, that was a bad take. Holy shit. Let's play that one again and hear that from the start. I can't believe she said that.
You can always come on. I've attempted to reach out to you several times, so just keep that in mind. Okay.
Probably either thinking, oh, incel, those are the virgins, right? Or, oh yeah, an incel. Yeah, I was called that one time that I disagreed with that woman's biased-ass opinion. Yeah, unfortunately, people like Becky's and other people really not taking it seriously or fully understanding what it is, has made it so that a lot of us overlook how serious the incel community is and even what it is. So I'm here to educate you about it today. Somebody can be an incel or have an incel ideology without being that person that's like outwardly saying, I hate women and I want to kill them.
All right. There's no such thing as an incel ideology.
Have you ever heard of... So, have you ever seen a person... Actually, no. This is better if I show you this. 1 second. Uno momento, por favor. I will rejoin you on the siesta. Hold on. I have something for this. The question I have to ask myself is, where is it? Here it is. Okay. So, prepare yourself. I'm about to show you some hard-ass cringe. Oh God. Oh, such a bad take. The audacity in which she said that shit with confidence is the part that gets me. Oh well. So, for those of you who do not know who Matthew Myers is, please bring your attention to the screen on the left. Matthew Myers is a known harasser. One of the people who tried to torment me of all people, but is one of the many known individuals on the internet that hates basically anybody who will not believe his lies. They are a trans grifter. We can say that officially now, because originally I would have said he is a known degenerate furry who hates popular people because they're successful at the thing that they want to do. One of the most common things that this person does is they are regularly quote posting about shit. In this case, for example, Nier Automata. It's still amazing to me that right-wingers think Nier is a story that is compatible with their ideology. Nier had a literal whole scene in text about the horrors of bullying others and people, and yet Gamergate creeps and harassers don't get it. It still amazed me that far-right culture warriors types never realize they're the villains in every single story they claim to light. There is a popular Weeb account that still has 5 figures of followers after being caught grooming a minor online who is an internet bully and harasser and has a 2B icon. I swear these people have never paid attention to the plot of these games. The person that he's talking about is an account by the name of Bitch-Ass Bowie. Bitch-Ass Bowie did not groom a child. A child and him were telling jokes to each other and laughing and giggling. There was no grooming, there was no touching, there was no sexual, there was no nothing. That's not the important part of what I want to show you. I have to show you something else too. Hold on. On top of that, there's a couple other things this person is known for doing. This one comes directly from my own coverage about the person I was talking about earlier, Mallory, Sweet Bean Comics. But there's a thread that I was reading in a video that I want to pull up really quick and show you on camera, because you got to see it with your own eyes in order to really believe this shit. Because if I told you that they said this, you'd be like, no, come on, Carl. They wouldn't go that mask off. But I don't know if you doubt. So, let's get into it. Where is my shit? Where is it? Here it is. Here we go. Right about there. Wonderful. This is an excerpt from The Cost of Spite, How to Be Like New Guy and Blondie, which was covering the Oni Sweet Bean Comics drama from January of this year. Everything that you're about to be read is from an archive of the Nerd Skull on one of his many banned accounts that they constantly make more of because they are known for skirting around the ban evasion policy on Twitter.
Jokes after they spend so much time crying that SJWs hate jokes. Also, bad things happening to bad people is funny, actually.
I'm gonna 2 times this because I don't want to be here forever. God damn it.
Thinking that someone associated with Newgrounds is a fragile, bigoted jackass. Never could have seen that coming. Anyways, I see it as karma. Maybe dude wouldn't have gotten robbed if he didn't wear a symbol that's suspiciously close to an iron cross in a video giving a reluctant and grudging apology for NG shit. Besides, he can get robbed and still be insanely rich for screaming rape and racial slurs in front of kids on YouTube. He's a minorly inconvenience. I feel a lot worse for people living in poverty. So much as told me it was one of his vacation homes that got robbed. Well, fuck these people. Harassing artists because they're joking about a racist millionaire getting one of several vacation homes robbed. Who will think of the insanely rich people? We, as a society, clearly need to do everything we can to protect the sanctity of buildings they leave abandoned for 95% of the year. What do they even steal anyways? A TV? Some furniture? That's equivalent to you or I dropping a few pennies to someone's richest pubes. Well, laughing my fucking ass off. People will tell me to start outright lie to smear people, won't they? Sure, that's exactly what I said, my dude. Whatever you think, and whatever you have to think to feel morally superior for defending a racist millionaire. I can't even get over just how some gamer Nazis have to lie in order to try and take me down a peg, and it's so clearly obvious what bullshit it is. It's complete failure. Don't dislocate your arm with that reach, man. Here's a hint. I don't generally approve of stealing of anyone. Whoever stole from these people is a bad person. It's not okay to steal from this guy. But it is okay to joke about a person experiencing a minor inconvenience. Take the stick out of your ass. Also, this reads like a complete lie. One doesn't keep sentimental items out of vacation home. It still kills me that these people are like, shouting racial slurs is a joke. If you're a bad person, but you're taking care of it. If you're not a measure, going home a person who appreciates your best from ribbons. Even if the claim was that his wife's sentimental items were taken, isn't completely true. It's obvious from the thread that I didn't know it was stolen, so this thirst to claim that I'm a bad person for whatever is such hilariously bad-faced shit. I'm an unbelievably incredible person, guys. Love me. I told you you'd want to vomit, didn't I?
That is Matthew Myers in his own fucking words as read by me in January. There's a bit more here, just to nail the point home, in case you need to see it. This is essentially what the problem I'm saying here is. The comment that they made about Gamergate creeps and harassers not getting things. No one thinks they are the bad guys, even when they are, especially when they are. Imagine if someone who hung children, murdered people, started telling you how evil of a monster you are because you didn't drink lattes. That is what that sounded like, hearing that come out of Roma's mouth. It boggles the mind, is what it does. It boggles the fucking mind. Because there's no such thing as an incel ideology. If there were a incel ideology, that incel ideology does not begin and end at, lol, I hate women. Let's go unironically attack them. Not what they think. That's not what they believe. Not even fucking close. I'd actually have to ask where the fuck you got that from. At the same time, it's not hard, it's not impossible for them to be the thing that I'm accusing them of being, even though they have those tendencies. No. Yes and no. Much like with my own story, when I explained how I went through this mental fucking hazing point, where I had to self-evaluate my own issues, rather than point my finger at people who I wanted to blame for it. It was not, lol, I think like this, but I just don't call myself that. Or, I have this exact same framework, but I use different words. It's, I hate things right now. The world sucks. Why is this happening to me, of all people? That's what that was. The incels don't have an ideology, they have terminology. And the terminology is the exact same terminology as anything else. If anything, if you wanted to claim that's their ideology, that's their form of their doctrine, it's the exact same doctrine that femcels follow. And yet, it's only one definition of incel, and it's the one where it's never an inclusive gender thing. It's just the word for man I don't like. Just like calling people Gamergate incel chuds means person I don't like. I have no idea what she gets down to when she's not on the internet, because I don't care to look. I'm not gonna do my black hat shit. However, I can tell you and show you exactly what somebody who thinks exactly like that thinks about and does when they're not lying to their public. I just showed you what it sounds like. I just showed you what it looks like. Boggle. 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 Let's move on. Anybody have any questions before I move on, though? If not, give me a second. Let's see if I can find and order this shit now. Alright. I see no questions. Hopefully, I don't think the chat froze. Let me double check. No, the chat did not freeze. We're good. Alright, moving on.
And I don't know if she's trying to connect a set of values with the people in the incel community, but incel is not an ideology. Incel is simply a state of being, and some of the people that find themselves, let's say, in that state of being like involuntarily celibate, lonely, lacking a connection with people, they haven't been touched by anyone, they don't have friends, they don't feel like they're close to anybody, whatever it is. Some of them will develop resentment, some of them will develop different feelings. We have different levels of cope. It's not an ideology, it's just a state of being. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, it's easier to feel like you're not getting something that you're owed than to feel like you're fatally flawed. And if you put people into that position, unless you want them to commit suicide, it's going to be cognitively easier to feel resentment rather than that kind of deep rejecting shame. And I don't know, I guess you have to ask yourself, what outcome do you want? Do you want incels to just kill themselves because they're unattractive to you? I mean, if that's the outcome you want, that's fine. Just be honest about it. Just say, you know, I think your emotions are unappealing, even though I don't care about what's actually causing them. And yeah, just take yourself out of my sight. And you know, like, if you can manage that, then good on you. You're a bit of a sociopath, but you're an honest one. I really hate this inability to understand what's going, or refusal to recognize the situation that incels are in, refusal to acknowledge it, combined with judgment of their attempts to coping. So that no attempt to ask yourself, well, how could we fix this, or make this better, or change this, and coupled with judgment of incels. Well, you should continue to see yourself in terms of the society that's rejected you, and as such, you should recognize that you are unappealing to us aesthetically and do something about it.
Yes. Hey, James like Mango is in the chat. She said, Honey Badger should have 1 million subscribers. Your analysis is consistently well-informed, thoughtful, and relevant. Thank you, Mom.
Aw, thank you.
So, it appears that the Honey Badgers agree with the dissertation I gave before and just now. That's not really a shock or surprise. It's kind of just an echoing of what I just said. But the explanation that Allison just gave is the shit that I just showed you. Right? That's the textbook. I just showed you the street applications. That's why this is a problem. Also, incel, much like any other word that's ever used as an insult, has now essentially been used into a catch-all insult just because, ooh, this is cheeky. Ooh, this will get people. This will sting. So they do it. I think it's fucking dumb. I dislike that it happens like that. And I'm sorry for all the people who tuned out of the broadcast at the exact moment I started showing you that shit. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to take in. Imagine one of these people do that to you. And you have to ask, where are you coming from with this? And then they say it more and more every single day while telling you you're the crazy one. That's how fucking bizarre it is. And mind you, I'm the person who has to read about this shit usually after it happens, because I usually get to see these things in archives. That's how fucking insane this conversation has become. That's why all this shit happens the way it happens. You ever heard that saying? The lie is already halfway around the world before the pants ever gets its chance, before the truth ever gets the chance to put its pants on. That times 10 billion.
Thank you, Professor Janice Domingo.
Anyway, go on. Yes, we should. But go on, Allison.
No, it just is astounding to me. And simultaneously with expecting. So what happens is we have this expectation that incels remain aesthetically pleasant to the world, even though the world has decided to completely abdicate any responsibility for any aspect of their life or how this has come about.
Mhm.
It's just, we're not going to take responsibility, but they should remain aesthetically pleasing. Well, human beings often aren't capable of doing things without any kind of social resource or any kind of social recognition. So, I mean, if you're not going to give them anything, you're not going to get anything out of them at this point. And it's a surprise to me that this is actually, I mean, look at what Lauren Bates says. Lauren Bates?
Laura Bates. Laura Bates.
Laura Bates.
Yes.
Laura Bates says, and she says, oh, there's thousands and thousands of misogynist men. I'm like, 1,000
Yeah,
out of
and they
4
all
million?
dream
A billion?
of like holding my hair like handlebars and raping me until I die.
Thousands, but thousands. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, but my point is that it's thousands out of 4 billion.
Yeah.
Like, who gives a shit? So we got some incels who are coping by feeling resentment towards the world. How is that different than any other era?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and terrorist organizations have often recruited from the ranks of young men who are resentful towards the world. So that nothing is different. Nothing has changed. You know, let's just go home. This is a nothing burger. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't have a strong conclusion. I just had some thoughts.
No, it's okay. Yeah, and I, you know, like part of me wants it. I do want to say that I think ultimately men's rights activists, and I think rightly so, for the most part, they tend to have a focus on just talking about things that affect, you know, that are sort of systemic, like you know, paternity fraud, wrongful paternity, child custody, domestic violence laws as they are currently implemented, you know, criminal justice reform, whatever, right? These are things that are usually like come from the state. But in my mind, and I know that I think, Allison, you agree, I think this is what we try to do here at HBR, it's also good to talk about, if not more important, to talk about the cultural issues. So we're not looking for systemic state-oriented change to change things like the way that we see men in our society, how we value them, you know, whether they are those blue-collar working class men that keep the lights on and the water running and the toilets flushing and they answer 911 calls and, you know, they make sure your phones work, they make sure that you can turn the lights on. Or if it's men like incels who have been, you know, demonized, and they've probably been mostly often they're abused. They have, you know, some kind of anxiety issues, psychological issues, social issues, physical issues, and they find themselves lacking connection. They don't have friends. Nobody likes them. Maybe they're antisocial. Maybe they are abused. So as a result of that, they only understand abuse as a form of love and affection, and they need help, and they will fall through the cracks. And so I think that, from my mind, I think that a person who has a focus on discussing men's issues, it's actually paramount that they talk about the men who are in need of help the most, which I think are those kinds of men. So like, we don't get to, personally, I don't believe you get to pick and choose what men you want to help out. And if there are men who might act in a violent way in the world because they hate the world, because the world has only done violence to them, and so they feel like, well, they need to lash back out. And if we basically ignore them and say, well, I don't want to be connected with those guys because I don't like how they could make us look, well, I don't think that we're doing them a service, and I don't think we should call ourselves men's issues advocates, because we have to help the people who are the worst off. And I think that playing that, oh, go ahead, Allison, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm just saying, playing that game of these people are good for our optics and these people are bad for our optics, even though they're all men and they need help, I think that only does what the feminists want, which is essentially divide men along different lines of, have you, you know, do you have healthy relationships with women or not? Do you have healthy relationships with men or not? Are you this race, that race? Where's your status? Are you homeless? Are you, you know, rich? Whatever. Are you a male feminist? You know, and I want to help. I think that all men need help. Even, yes, male feminists. I have tremendous sympathy for them. They make me angry, sure. They repeat bad ideas. Sometimes they're doing it for their own personal gain, but at the end of the day, if they are harmed by the system, then I'm going to try to help them. So.
Yeah, and I mean, it's ridiculous to
I'd like to chime in and say the exact shit that I said earlier. Sexual poverty line and all that. Street application. Book learning. Street advocation. Book learning. Oh boy, there's a phrase for this actually. I forgot what the phrase is, but I'll explain it like this. In movements coming up, you'll have the old guard and the new upper crust elites, and then sometimes the people who are the old guard undercrust elites, the Ubermensch and the Untermensch of the youth, challenging the old guards of the elders, right? Kind of half the reason why you have to vet ideas is because when you have the situation like what we have here now, what we're here to talk about, when you have somebody like Roma, or hell, let's throw myself in there, me, you have to vet, because even if they have new terminology and new ways to explain things to people so that they can pick them up quicker, you have to make sure that their head's on the right way around. Like how everything that I just explained and went on a tirade about was just 1000% explained back to you, but with the book learned definitions from people who's been out here hustling, grinding, advocating, and suffering the consequences of being in this thing, compared to the new money of education. And here I am as the intermediary between these two, explaining to you how this shit works. Over here, we foxing with each other. It might be different ways of explaining the shit, but it's the same shit, and it all makes sense, especially when you listen to it. Over here, this shit don't make sense. That's the reason why you vet, right? Because if it makes sense and it can engage and energize the youth, it connects to them, it gets them going, and you do a little bit more than just the surface level. The shit that you say isn't just, wow, that makes for a really great slogan, but what does that do? When you do the most, but the most is actually the best of the most, you really can't dismiss it. You really can't. Because if you dismiss something that you personally don't like, just like the Doge just said, if you dismiss things because they make us look bad, they're not like us. They don't do what we do. So fuck them. Leave them to their wills and wiles. Even then, it's a shame and it's a failure of the thing you're supposed to set out to do. I don't like doing it. I try to help as many people as I possibly can, no matter who they might be. If they deny themselves the help, well, that's their fault. That's their choice. I'm not taking a choice from them. However, should there be somebody who says, I need help, please help me, I don't know what to do, it's my job to reach down and say, here, my child, here's a hand. Take it. It's yours. Just reach out. All you gotta do is grab me. Just grab my fucking hand. That's what you gotta do. Bit harder. It sucks when it's happening because it feels unfair. But that's how it has to be. And as long as it has to be like this, because, well, you have the intersectionality issue, it's always how it's going to end up being. I'd prefer it not be like that. But we take these W's and L's as they come, basically. So, when you vet something, and it makes sense, but somebody else says, lol, there's no way that makes sense because it's not what I have, it's a little bit telling. Especially considering this kind of validates that thing I just said. Now granted, my side involved the female incel perspective there. But same shit. Same shit, same day, different words.
Appeal to at least me as a men's rights activist and say, oh, well, those people, that group of people is beyond the pale. You should not. Do you realize how I ended up identifying as a men's rights activist? Like, it was an act of defiance because the SPLC the Southern Poverty Law Center had declared the men's rights movement a movement of hatred, and then they went back on it. But and I was like, no, that's not my experience at all. So if you're going to condemn them, you can condemn me. And yes, there have been incels who have gone on to do horrific things. Yep. Of course, in the case of one incel, Elliot Rodger, apparently the community he was a part of was trying to tell him to tone it down. And maybe if there was some kind of way of communicating between the greater society and the incel community, the incels could give people heads up about those individuals who might have a serious issue. Because apparently the only group of people in Elliot Rodger's life that was aware of how extreme he had gotten was the incel community he was a part of. I want you guys to chew on that.
Yes.
The only ones who could have raised those red flags, because everybody else apparently wasn't paying attention to him at all, was the incel community. And yet what do? We condemn them. We condemn the one community that recognized how screwed up he was.
Oh. That's actually a great point you just brought up. That's kind of half the reason why you don't try to eliminate voices from groups that you do or don't like from the internet. That's like the whole reason. When you silence a community that you decide is abhorrent and deserves to be killed off, you're not destroying them. You're driving them underground, where they can regroup and communicate without you seeing them, watching them. It's kind of like the alt-right, right? They're the most popular boogeyman that's reached out to for reasons why you need to be a liberal. And yet, if it wasn't for the fact that the most extreme shit Richard Spencer had ever said or done was captured on a hot mic, and it was released by Milo Yiannopoulos, who in his own right has a bunch of issues too, like owing a lot of people money. If it hadn't been for him leaking that, the way that he leaked it, you would have never known that hotbed Charlottesville Screed was all you needed to know. That he 1000% was indeed doing what we thought he was doing, and he was mask off. Now, of course, you're going to have 50 billion people standing there screaming, I knew it! I knew it! I knew it! But no, the fuck you didn't. You didn't know until you saw it. Why didn't you see it sooner? Because you're dumb! dumbass allowed them to go underground. It's the reason why I just showed you Matt Myers in his own unfiltered language, or in her own unfiltered language, if you truthfully believe that this person is trans and not just being a transgender, to grift so they can use it as a method to get more attention and more sympathy and more support from the people who will enable them to be the kind of sycophant stalker that they are. That is the reason why I showed it to you. When you see it with your own eyes, you can decide for yourself if you believe that shit makes sense. But how would you know that it's there unless you know where to look? The only way you'd find information like that is if you went to Kiwi Farms on your own. And there's nothing that says that you would. Honestly. Because, you know, shitposting website. Why would you go there for that information when it should already be public? If you didn't have people like me who will sit on a camera to tell you and explain it, hold your hand, break down how it makes sense, you would never find out or know. So, kind of stands to reason that's where we find ourselves. I wish it wasn't like that, but it'd be like that sometimes. It'd be like that sometimes.
Even his therapists, his parents, his teachers, his friends, if he had any, all failed to notice him at all. But the incel community did, and they did notice that he was screwed up. So think about that, and what that actually says. But anyway, so the point is that yes, there are some who become violent, but there's people like that in every group, because in philosophy, every ideology can be used to justify extremism in its name. That's one of the problems of ideologies. But usually the real reason why they're doing this is not their ideologies, not the excuses they make. It's because they have severe mental health problems. I'm not talking depression, anxiety, OCD, or anything like that. Like antisocial personality disorder coupled with histories of abuse.
Yes, which Elliot Rusher had.
Yeah, so you get rid of that, or you address that, and you will not have violent young men or violent young women. The other thing I wanted to mention is that the incel phenomenon is a symptom of, in my opinion, society's failure, and in particular, society's failure to enable men to. The way that men develop sexual attractiveness is a bit different than women, I think. Women just sort of have it by virtue of growing up and attaining whatever level of physical attractiveness that they do. And if they want to be a wife in previous eras, they'd have to actually cultivate some moral virtue. I don't know if that's true anymore, but in the past. But for men, their attractiveness seems to be tied up much more in their social behavior, their ability to develop meritocracies and cooperate with each other and develop productivity and social status. Well, in the West, we are in the process of dismantling our meritocracy, and we have been for possibly since the petrodollar. And one of the symptoms of that is men become more and more sexually disenfranchised because they have no way of attaining the social status. And it's not like in a healthy human meritocracy, almost every man attains some form of social status, including being regarded as a man. But we have been destroying the meritocracy itself, and we've also been destroying the idea that being a man has merit, which in turn destroys men's sexual desirability to women, because women want men. They want something that isn't them. That's what they're attracted to. And in our society, not only does not help men attain that, it has actively been deconstructing how men attain that. And one of the symptoms are disenfranchised young men. And what's interesting is that is a symptom. And then as that progresses over time, society itself starts to deteriorate, because that meritocracy is essential to maintaining almost every social institution we rely on, including the most important one, which is the economy. So you can either look at this and recognize that this is a symptom of something deeper. Maybe you should pay attention to it and just observe it without opining on its qualities relative to your own ego. Does that, I'm sorry, I'm using a lot of words.
I think, you're right. And I do think that it's, like I said, it's dismissive and it's not constructive to try to figure out how incels are something that needs to remain an outlier that you should not have to address or acknowledge as a symptom of the larger problem, which is the most important problem. And, you want to get rid of the incel issue, you have to address this. You can't just address everything else, because then you're only addressing symptoms.
And like I said, so a lot of the incel issue is the disenfranchisement of men from the ability to create sexual desire. I'm not talking about that men are entitled to women's sexual desire, but at the very least, if women are going to have certain criteria, society needs to be enable men to access those criteria and develop them.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they've always been incels to some degree, but I think the overwhelming majority of men that find themselves in that position would have been able to find another form of fulfillment outside of
priests, monks.
Yeah, priests, monks, whatever. Or, they just form healthy friendships with other men. They work with them. They, whatever. They find a way to go on and live a productive life that they can still look back on and be happy for, even if that aspect is missing. Now, I think that we are now at a stage where that is also really unlikely. Like, that's not a likely outcome for men. And I think that the sort of isolation of men who find themselves to be involuntarily celibate, that isolation extends beyond female connection with women. It also extends to connection with other men. And I think a part of that is this kind of dividing that we're seeing from, I would say, from feminists and moderates, and maybe even some non-feminist types, even some supposedly red pill guys that basically draw a line between them and incel men. And they say, well, we're not you, right? And so it essentially
talk that talk, doggy.
Continues to isolate those men, and they have a harder time connecting with people. And again, it's like we've said, you can't have an enormous number of men that don't have any sexual or relationship or family prospects because they have been rejected by the overwhelming majority of women, and they're standing around with nothing to do because they don't have any other prospects. And that's kind of like, what most men want at the end of the day, because they will turn inward and they will self-destruct, and sometimes when they self-destruct, they take other people down with them, which, we'll get to it later, because I think that she talks about some examples of incel violence. I put that in quotes. But all I will say is it's interesting that no one seems to care about incels until they commit mass murder, and then all of a sudden they're seen. And maybe that's what it is you're giving them. Maybe that's the issue. Maybe you shouldn't be waiting until a bunch of people are murdered before you start saying something, because if they just killed themselves, you wouldn't know their name.
What's interesting, like when I watched The Joker, something that I found really interesting, like a statement that it made the movie, was the only thing that he ever got attention for was positive attention for was his violence.
Yeah.
And you could see that he was trying to resist the ultimate conclusion of that throughout most of the movie. But then he just gave in because he had never gotten any kind of positive reinforcement for anything but the violence.
Yep.
And if you are completely silenced until you lash out violently, it's really hard to, when you also have these impulse control problems and mental health, like extreme mental health problems on top of it, I imagine it's extremely hard to keep a lid on that when the only time you feel like you have a voice is through violence. And
Ellison, how based of you. She's 1000% correct, by the way. If you only ever talk about an issue, we talked about this already, we mentioned this, but let's go over it again. If you only ever give credence to something when it does negative things and use it for positive attention spin. Oh, you're so good of a guy. You're not like those other guys. Those guys used to abuse and rape me. If that's the only thing you ever get on a loop times 1 billion, and then you crack, and all of a sudden it's, well, we always knew Carl was a bad egg. Look at him. Look at this man. Look at this man. Grown-ass man. Grown-ass man. I always wanted to ask those people who spam that, by the way, is it grown-ass man or grown-ass man? But anyways, if you only ever get negative attention, negative positive attention, you're only ever looked at as a positive with what basically amounts to a backhanded insult. And the only time you actually get noticed for the things that you do is when they're happy to say your name out loud. But it's not a woman screaming your name to the sounds of the rhythmic spooking and babadookening, but is instead, this just in, Carl killed 50 billion people after going on a live stream and advocating for the rights of men. More news at 10, Sally. If that's the kind of attention that a person gets, why wouldn't they do it? If that's the only way they can get noticed, even if at that point they're too far gone to ever get help. Although apparently there are still people who would fuck those kinds of guys. There's like an entire fan club for like every single one of them. There's a fan club for Elliot not Elliot Lodger, although there actually still is, but since he's gone now, less so. But there's a fan club for Dylan Roof, the guy that shot up the black church. He's crying like a bitch because he knows he's gonna get the fucking chair if he doesn't live in jail for the rest of his life. But, yeah, even they have fan clubs. If that's the only kind of positive attention that they're gonna get, that people are gonna worship them for having gone off the deep end and really taken the dive, rather than them getting their lives together, what reason would they ever do anything positive, ever? If really what they want is to finally hear somebody say their name. Lovingly or not. What do you have to offer them? What can you give them? What can you offer them is the better way to say it. What can you offer them other than their name on the marquee? Even if that marquee is stained in blood and mud. Since that's what their name is going to be if they do those things. I would hope that we have an answer. My answer is anything other than, because at that point their life is already over. Feminists' answer is apparently nothing, because they promise them the world and they never deliver. They don't even deliver to the male feminists. So what honest belief would you have that they would deliver to the disaffected femboys that they ended up making by pussifying men? What would you think they would offer to the trans people, male to female and female to male, when they told them, oh, you're a pretty little princess because one time you put on heels, or you're very clearly a man because you look really nice in the suit, the same that you look in a really tight sweater? What can you offer them after the lie's up, after the jig is up and you have their money and you're counting it in their face? And they're like, I get the attention now, right? And you're like, yeah, sure.
And maybe it would be better to, and once again, the incel community was the only one that identified Elliot Rodger as a problem before he became a problem. And so maybe giving them a little bit more attention and recognition might help prevent Elliot Rodgers in the future. But, let's just keep ignoring the problem. Let's keep compounding and shaming it and see if that works out for us.
Yep.
Okay, maybe we should watch a little bit. Do you have time codes, or are we just going through the whole thing?
I have time codes. I am going to play some of the beginning, and then I'm going to jump ahead because she goes through a couple of examples of incel violence, like sort of high profile, well-known examples.
Incel ideologies are all over our society. So let me show you / explain to you what it looks like. It's really important to know that you can be an incel and have incel ideologies and still not be a virgin. In fact, to think otherwise almost reminds me of the guys that are like, I don't hate women, I fuck them. God, Robin, no. Like I said, incels aren't just just the men that are committing mass murders in the name of hating women and feminism.
Can I get something in here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Technically, people who are sexual with the opposite sex have a better opinion of them. And there's a deep psychological reason why, and that is because our sexual desire is actually subjectifying. It means that we recognize the other, like the mental process of the people that we're attracted to, and we start to have sympathy for it. So in general, if a man is having sex with women, he's much less likely to dislike them. That's one thing, and I think it's also true about women too, which may explain some of the extreme feminists who suddenly get a little gentled once they're in a relationship, shall we say?
Oh yeah, is it genteel? Is that the word? I know
No, gentle.
they become passive and.
No, they just become gentle. They become less extreme and hateful.
Oh, I see. Yeah, like that girl, the Die Sis Gum girl. That's the one example.
Die Sis Gum,
you know the one with the black lipstick. She shaved her head. She was like Die Sis Gum. Sorry, there's a lot of dogs in my neighborhood. So if you hear that, it's not JoJo. It's some little something out there. Yeah, and then like she had this viral video of her, and then she disappeared for a while, and then when she reemerged, it was many months later, if not years later, and she was like, I'm no longer a feminist, and she had like a pretty like yellow dress, and her hair was growing out, and she was really sweet and feminine. And I was like, oh, she must have found some dick. But yeah, no, she had found a man. So.
Yeah, that's.
I'd like to chime in here with apparently that story does not have the happy ending that people thought. Apparently that was just a phase, and that person's right back to the way they used to be. There's a couple of different versions of that story that I've been told. All information that I've investigated says that the version that they just told is the true one. There's versions that were said that actually that was taken out of context. They were just trying something different for a while, in which case, no, they were getting piped, and then they stopped getting piped, and they went right back to the shit that they were just in. And then there are people saying that actually that person's a paid actor. They were a model that was for a photo shoot. There are 50 billion explanations for that shit, but realistically, that is the way that it usually goes. The feminists will say to you, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this, they need to do that, they need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this, you need to do that. But then you go home, and then you open the feminist's closed doors, and the next thing you know, she's bent over the couch, getting plowed by a man twice her fucking size. You know, making the noise. Ooh. That one. It happens more often than you think. I always find it hilarious. Mainly because that's all feminism promises women. Do you want to be this woman who gets to have her cake and eat it too? Join now. But moving on.
That's sort of what happens. It's probably one of the reasons why political lesbians are against this kind of fraternization of the sexes, because it does actually sort of get rid of a lot. You take the edge off the hatred. So when she says, "Oh, men say that they fuck women, and that means that they don't," well, it's going to be really difficult for them to really despise something they're having sex with. Humans don't work that way. It's unless they're extremely damaged, and men who rape are the most damaged of the damaged men. Like I mean, even other criminal men despise rapists. So it's not completely accurate. I guess you got some wiggle room. But it's I don't know. It seems like it's what she's saying here is sort of a little against humanity.
It's a little feministy too, right? Like it's a little bit of.
I was getting that taste.
That's what I got from it. I was like, oh, that tastes feministy. It's like bitter and salty and a little bit
like, a little bit shitty.
Yeah, like kind of like not ripe yet. But and yeah, when you say I don't hate women because I have sex with them, but you say fuck them, so you make it a little bit more vulgar. It's like, well, what are you trying to suggest? Like, can men hate women? Who's making the argument they can't? Don't we hear it a little bit too much that they do? But anyway, let's hear some more.
They aren't just men like Elliot Rogers, who is idolized.
It's just Elliot Roger. Why does everyone say Elliot Rogers? It's just Elliot Roger. Stop saying Elliot Rogers.
Okay, but are they idolizing Elliot Rogers for real, or is this just deep trolling?
Oh, it's totally deep trolling. I think she believes it's real. I'm almost certain. Okay, I'll put it this way. Alec Manassian looked up to Elliot Rodger according to the police interview that we watched of Alec Manassian, right? Speaking with detectives or officers or whatever. After they had arrested him, Alec Manassian is the guy who drove the truck in Toronto and ran over several people, killing lots of them. I think it was like the biggest, that kind of murder was a really big one for Canada. It might have been one of the biggest, if not the biggest. And he said that he did it for Elliot Rodger. He made the claim. But when you watch the interview, you can see that Alec Manassian was he was not there. He was not a normal guy. He was like, he has some extreme mental issues. And I don't think that he is at all typical of people on the incel forum. So I've interviewed incels. I've had the guy who runs incel.co on the show. I've had Richard on the show. I had Rendio on the show because I really wanted to talk to them and get a feel for it. And my understanding is that most of them are just lonely guys, and they either are black-pilled on their future, saying that you can't get.
Hello, Leper. Why would it not show me your message before?
Kind of extreme traditionalism.
The hell?
So every man has a shot, or we need to. They have like solutions in place or things that they'd like to see.
Oop. Hello, Leper. Why did it not show me these messages until I refreshed it for the second time? I thought my chat was dead. Hello, Leper. But holy fuck, I just realized feminism, #TraceNarc, is a multi-level marketing scheme. Yes. I'm glad you finally joined me on my level. You've reached the level of Carl. Yeah. The reason why I tend to harp a lot about this, because this is the thing I do. I actually went to marketing school. I went to marketing school, I went to college for shit. I went to college for a lot of things. And I had a multiple amount of majors going all at the same time. Technically, if I go back and I finish 2 more years, I could have my marketing degree if I cared about it, but I don't. I realized I was wasting money. Because why pay thousands and thousands of dollars to be in debt for a 4-year degree when I can literally learn everything I need to do about the world by simply playing video games? Feminism TM Trait Snark is indeed an MLM. And the reason it's an MLM is because the only people who get to do the fun shit are the people who are smart enough, pretty enough, and are energetic enough with enough followers and simps behind them to get the reins of the organization. Why do you think we know all of the names of the ones who are commonly associated with the thing, despite all of the time, the most common thing they say, like what Anita Sarkeesian started saying, after gaming developers realized, hey, wait a minute, there is no female video game Sharia out here. Anita, you made me lose money. I have no advocation for this. I have never been anything. I've never been so important. I have never. Remember? Do you remember during the lead up for The Last of Us 2 before they delayed it twice? Remember when she said, I have never, not once, I am not responsible for this thing? And she was mentioned in an article by name by Neil Druckmann about where they got their inspiration for his video game design. You know, before Neil Druckmann started coping saying, it's not me, my video game's not bad, you guys just don't like muscular women. Remember that? That times a billion. For every single one of them. That does it. It's hilarious that nobody else has noticed that. But I'm glad you noticed that, Joss. You're welcome. Mwah. It's from me. From me to you. Take it. It's yours. I'm surprised that there's not a similar one with what would be called Meninism. But I suppose it's because Meninists don't exist. But, yeah.
But they're not self-destructive, they're not murderous, and they don't put up with that. I know that the guy that runs the incels.co forum, I hope I'm saying that right, the people the admins that he works with, they ban people if they start talking about violence. Now, I'm not personally in favor of banning. I think that there should be another way to deal with it, because all you do is further isolate those guys, but they don't tolerate it is the point. So, definitely Alec Manasseh is an outlier. I would argue that most of the other guys, maybe they're doing what some, let's say, some feminists do when they go to social media to kind of like take pleasure in male suffering, and they do it to trigger men, like Clementine Ford does when she like makes jokes about, oh, COVID hasn't killed enough men or whatever. She's it's bait, right? And she wants the bait because she wants the attention, because then she can sell more books. So, you know, you have to be careful about that. I don't think that Clementine Ford personally wants to kill any.
Oh, there's also that one too. Sometimes people will do shit for attention. Realistically, if you actually get down to the nit and grit of it, I'll explain it like this. You know how Poe and I mock the shit out of people? Poe mocks people because Poe likes to make people suffer by posting cringe, and I like to make entitled people suffer by getting to laugh at them the way that they laugh at the people they victimize. That's marketing. Granted, we're doing it not because we want money, but because we really, really, really love to bully people. But that's marketing still. I would be lying to you if I said that it didn't serve a secular purpose. Not secular. Secondary. Origin slip. Because mocking women is my religion. Mocking women, loving women. But no. The same way that being out in front of a camera advocating for things is a way of getting attention. Baiting people into falling for a trap. Kafka trap. A meme. Hitting themselves in the face with a metaphorical or literal rake. Technically, it's all subversion, and therefore, it is all a method of bringing attention to oneself. Positive, negative, comedic, satirical, or otherwise. It's a great way for a person who's an artist in this day and age to make money. If you want easy clout, satirize the policies in the political news. It's what George Prime's been doing, and he's been doing it really well, because he's a really good artist. I interviewed him on my channel. Even me mentioning him now, That's also a form of marketing. If you're on 50 billion levels of marketing, you can find a way to explain every single person's behavior and decision and choice. But the problem is that not everything has to be because it's good marketing. Sometimes you could say, for example, one of my haters, the only reason Carl cares about these things is because you care about these things, so he'll cover it because you like it, because he'll say it, and you'll say, oh my god, I can't believe, and then he'll post it somewhere. The same people who say that about me are the same people who are unironic fans of Osh and unironic fans of BreadTube, who regularly retweet and repost and propagate the numbers of these people because, lol, you guys just don't like them because you can't actually debunk them. And then we cover them. And then we debunk them. Oh my god, you're just lying about them. So we tell them where we got it from, and I explain it to you in a way that makes sense. Oh my god, that's not their real opinions. Same thing there is the same thing here, as technically could be anywhere where propagation and marketing can be sold. Realistically, it just aligns with an agenda, is what it does. I have an agenda of making people realize how stupid they can be by realizing how this entire thing is all a sham. If it makes money, is not the thing that comes to my mind. It's, what's the truth and where can I find it? If the truth and me saying some correct shit happen to go in the same direction, why would I not say that definitely true thing that I can demonstrate to you on camera? Why would I have to do it just because it makes me money? Again, that would be telling on yourselves. That's the reason why, for example, with Anita Sarkeesian, when she was just the figurehead, when she was the face for Jonathan McIntosh's mouth to say all of these things that he thought as a male feminist, he did not ever think that Anita Sarkeesian would subvert his attention, his clout, his business, his everything, while they were dating. And they were dating. They were fucking. He did not expect her to take that from him and waylay it and put her name on the goddamn cover. Oh. The same way, eventually in the future, Anita did not expect, but was happy that it happened this way, for the entire games media, which was already infiltrated by people like her, to say, yes, here it is, it's our time now. And then, just like that, companies like NetherRealm, originally Midway, headed by people like Ed Boon, the reason why there is an ESRB rating on your video games. Somebody who said before, we want to deliver bloody video games to the people who enjoy them, would say, actually, yes, we're going to put the women in clothing consistent with Sharia laws, but these men, we're going to have them out here like actual sex slaves, because that is good. That's what we want in our gaming. Gaming has to grow up, you chuds. The same way that happened, we are now a couple of months into the future here, where they are unironically realizing everybody fucking hates them. No matter what diversion they do, they can't get their way now, because people are learning how to push back on them. There have been people who have seen this happen, just like I have, that are now revealing how the sausage is made, showing the whole thing with a camera phone, out in the streets, out and about. And people who originally only stayed indoors, and now run multimedia empires, their rhetoric has gotten stale. The promises that they've been promising still haven't been fulfilled. And now there's enough people that the sound of the mobs and crowds outside are growing louder and louder every single day. Also, it's a political year, In an election year, everything's gonna be crazy anyways. But that's kind of how it's gone. That's kind of what caused it. Because that has gone that way. Because those things are the way that they are. Because you have these people who are constantly screaming, don't you know that they're a grifter? Don't you know that they're subverting you? The grifters themselves are scared. Because realistically, it's kind of like what I said before on the last broadcast. Either they're grifters, and we reveal them, and we throw them out, because they gotta go, or They're really incompetent, and it would be better served that you don't follow them. It's that. And it's kind of gonna keep going that way, no matter what. Because, you know, as long as they're the ones that cash out at the top, as long as they're living the good life, they have no reason to stop the engine. They'll keep consuming the same people who they're promising these things to, because the people who they're promising it to are the ones that eventually feed that engine, you know? Or rather, it's more like, if you really want to be more honest about it, because sometimes the people who are driving the engine are just as incompetent as the people who are rushing to throw themselves into the gears of it, saying, I won't be me, I won't get consumed. It's more like the people who are on top inside of the multi-level bullshit. It's more like they know that they're lucky as fuck because they made the right moves to stab as many backs necessary to get there, and they're just killing as many more sacrifices as they need to keep themselves on top just for a little while longer. And only after they've successfully groomed their replacement will they finally let themselves fall into the engine. Like that. Which, at that point, it's more like a cult than just a cult of multi-level marketing, selling hope, but always dispensing and dispensing fear and anxiety amongst the masses. But it is what it is. It is what it is. And also, yes, everything that you're saying too. Let me read through them, because I have to approve a couple of them. Meninism would be the group of fellas you know selling the secrets for flipping the buck. They'd agree, but they're all competing individually. Clementine would be attractive if she were sweet and had some dental work done, but she really loves the bully. Like, it's amazing how wide the attraction net is. Guys will go for fat chicks with a pretty face and a bombastic personality. Stop it! You don't need to tell people my secrets. Or that girl next door thing. It's all about the attitude. The word of mouth is marketing. Yes, actually. In my opinion, Clementine Ford would be a lot more attractive if she was more like Daisy Cousins. Because, hey, look, Daisy has a man. She has a really good man. I doubt she had to do that by wearing any of her old-timey clothing. How am I doing? I'm doing okay, Jimmy. I'm fine. I'm as fine as Carl can be.
Anyone. I think that she delights in making people mad online.
She's just a troll, but she's she's playing an interesting game of trying to assassinate other trolls that she don't agree with her or take an opposite stance to her trolling position. Right. The other thing is that the feminists who say this stuff, I generally don't see them as being as socially isolated. Usually they're like, I hate men, buy my book.
Yeah, no, they're not exactly. Where it's coming from isn't a place of like genuine like isolation and frustration or mental illness. Like I think that Elliot Rodger, his stepmother, she abused him terribly, and his dad wasn't around because he was like this hotshot producer and he was really busy, so he wasn't there for his son to protect him. And she did terrible things to Elliot Rodger, and this made him hate women, right? I think that it had a lot to do with all that. If it wasn't the case.
Oh no, his mic died.
So there's a big difference between Elliot Rodger and Clementine Ford because she gets to make, she gets to appear on TV and she sells a book and she works she gets to hate men professionally, basically. Elliot Rodger does it from,
And that's actually a lot creepier.
It does.
Yeah, it's a lot creepier that women can hate men professionally and get paid for it. Yep. Or do whatever it is, like pretend to hate men or have these narratives and get money for it. Like, and be given a platform in mainstream media and in academia and the government for doing this stuff. Well, it's not just creepy; it's also a little bit like a head scratcher for me because at this point in time, I've gone so deep into like how the basics, like the fundamental of society works, that I'm thinking this seems a little bit counterproductive if you want to maintain a healthy society to have this as the primary narrative of the relationship between the genders. But it's a bold move. Let's see if it plays out for Western civilization. Yeah. Anyway, let's listen to some more.
Let's continue.
By the incel community for committing a mass murder against women and attractive men. Idolized. Yeah, people have made like YouTube mock videos. They made t-shirts. You should really look it up. It's concerning. Incels and the men's rights movements are the equivalent of feminazis and the feminist movements.
No, not even close. No, I know what you're.
We already explained this, but no, they're not. Incels are not like feminazis. Feminazis are the convinced and idealized and mentally conformated and erased minds of the horde, collectively transmitted and collected into a Borg cube. They're the ones that pound the pavement of, you must join us, you must be converted I. That's them. Incels they're not that. If anything, they're not that. They're more like, insurgents. They're like the IRA. The Irishmen that blew up buildings. Those guys. Why did I try to do Irish and I ended up going Scottish with bits?
You're trying to do, but that's not even close. You need to look into it more. The feminazis, as you put it, and the feminist movement are fundamentally not different. The feminazis run the feminist movement. The feminist movement of normie feminists, they go along with, maybe they're against like the extreme stuff. Like I know, like Shoe on Head has been like talked about a lot, but she's a pretty good example of what I mean. She'll say, well, I don't like all the crazy stuff about the pink tax and the wage gap and the, like the rape culture and the 1 in 4 or manspreading and mansplaining and manterrupting and manslamming, but I'm okay with other feminist issues that are like second wave or like moderate or whatever. No, it's all coming from the same place. It's all bullshit. Some of it just sounds more clownish than others, but the whole thing is clowns. The whole thing, it's an entire circus. You're looking at like the clown in the fat suit with the horn and like the one that's like 3 guys standing on each other's shoulders and they're on stilts and they have like, I don't know, whatever clowns have. And I'm telling you that the little midget clowns and the and the normal like bozo clowns and like the clowns on the unicycles, they're all clowns. You're trying to tell me, oh, that's a clown. No, they're all clowns. The whole thing is clowns. Like, and it's because it's based in bullshit. So that there's no such thing as radical feminism and normal feminism. It's all bullshit. It's like
all clowns all the way down.
It's clowns all the way to the tent. It's just clowns all the way.
No, it's true. And the other thing is that radical feminism, and I have been at this long enough to be so totally and utterly jaded, and I have watched the progression, and I've actually warned people. I'm like, you see that crazy woman ranting on the corner, yelling at individual air molecule or oxygen molecules about the patriarchy? That's going to be the mainstream narrative in however many years, 5, 10 years. Every single time I've been right.
Absolutely.
The ideas that the radicals espouse inevitably become mainstreamed.
Yeah, they're already becoming mainstreamed. I mean, fucking, one would argue, like 4 years ago, I think, when mansplaining was like sort of becoming a thing that we had to talk about, and we thought it was so ridiculous and so dumb, and like lo and behold, what happened at the last vice presidential debate? Because Mike Pence was explaining his position, there were literal like outlets saying this is mansplaining because his opponent was a one. And this is it's normal. It's not. This isn't fringe. This is normal. This is where it will go. So whatever the fringe thing is now,
it'll become the mainstream.
It'll become the mainstream. Yeah, like give it like 5 years, maybe 10 if we get that far.
10 years ago, I was calling out a particular feminist campaign called Name the Violence, which was essentially saying that we needed to, like, saying things like violence against women was making men's violence invisible. So we need to name the violence as male. And we need to say that this is men's responsibility. This is men doing. Every time a woman is harmed, it's the responsibility of all men because all men are doing it. And now we see Laura Bates writing a book basically on that thesis and getting it published. And this concept is now becoming more and more mainstream. And it's like, yep, that's what happens. And the funny thing is that, like, using your clown analogy, they'll point to the clowns out front doing the craziest antics and say those clowns are somehow separate from the clowns that are doing, I don't know, doing the brass band that the crazy antic clowns are anticing to.
Yeah, they're not like I'm saying, they're pointing at the body positivity clown because they think that's funny, and there's like this big fat clown that wants to be like treated as sexy. They're making fun of like the not at all passing trans feminist clown. They're making fun of like these other like sort of like big obvious targets, the man spreading clown and the man slamming clown and the but they're okay with like the let's make street harassment illegal clown. That's because they think that, oh yeah, street harassment totally happens. It happened to me, happened to my sister, whatever. And they don't realize that
realize the implications.
Yeah, and they're all coming out of the same fucking car, which is patriarchy theory. It's coming from the same bullshit place. And you.
One moment. This is not relevant to what we're talking about here, but I imagine people would like to hear this good news come from me. I'm come to bring you good news. This is a thread on Twitter. I just retweeted it. 1 second. Boop. Boop. Here we go. I come to bring you good news. The rules of Twitter's child exploitation policy have changed. Promoting or normalizing sexual attraction to minors as a form of identity and sexual orientation is now against Twitter's rules. We did it, everybody. We did it. We did it, everyone. Pedos are on the run. I had to announce that. I figured everybody would be excited just as much as I was excited.
All I will say is, this is why I said, Chloe Roma's commentary is very surface level. She sounds like one of those people who basically says, I don't have a problem with feminists, I have a problem with feminazis. And it's a really, really basic bitch position. And I'm not calling her a bitch, I'm saying the position is a basic bitch position. Yeah, it's a basic bitch position.
You gotta observe this for a lot longer before you really understand the mechanism, and you realize that the extremes always end up being normalized.
Oh, hello, Britain Knight. My stream just got censored for talking about a certain presidential candidate's son as the primary topic. Like, I legit got shut down by the powers that be. Wow. That's dog shit. Amazing. What a wonderful website we're all on. Why is YouTube only just now to what the fuck Twitter? Yes. Twitter is extremely bad. Oh boy. I'm surprised that the head of Trust and Safety still has a job. But hey, I'm not Vijay Gadad. I don't have to be on camera and defend my boss when I get railed by people like Tim Cook. Excuse me, not Tim Cook. Tim Pool on the Joe Rogan podcast when I'm asked, do I cape for these ideologies? But hey, We can finally start antagonizing pedophiles, as rightfully as we've always been. Moving on, though.
The whole mechanism of feminism is an exercise in moving the overton window as far to hating men as possible. And there's a reason for all of this, a deep, deep reason for all of this, a psychological reason for all of this. It has absolutely nothing to do with men or women, except how to exploit the two. But that's something that I have to get into in a different time. But there exists something deep that's pushing this towards the cliff. So, and to say that the clowns at the front of the train, well, those clowns are bad, but the clowns in the middle cars of the train, they're okay. Well, the whole train is going off the cliff.
Yep.
So it's all not going to work. But anyway, let's
All right, let's keep going. Let's keep going. It's okay. I'm almost.
I'm having an allergic reaction to my cat. She spread hair all over me.
Oh, an asshole.
They're the ones that have taken something that was supposed to be meant for something good and turned it into hatred and sometimes violence. And if they're not directly perpetuating it, they're perpetuating the ideologies of it. Let me show you what I mean. So
Oh my god.
I posted this video on TikTok that I found is CTV footage and a news story of a woman who was wearing a pretty red dress. And look, I'll just show you.
You can see 23-year-old Maria Laguerre in a red dress there. She walks past the man at the top of the screen. She says he whistled at her, made lewd remarks and noises, and they appear to go their separate ways, but the man turns back, follows her, and then ends up hitting her.
So I posted it on TikTok. I was like, first of all, pretty disgusting that nobody in that cafeteria grabbed that ass and held him there until the police got there. The police were searching for him at the
All right, I'm just pausing it there.
Wait, the police were searching for him because he was a criminal of some kind?
Well, did you see the video that he? So I think it's after the incident. So you didn't see the video. So basically, according to the video, a man was catcalling a woman. I don't know where it was. I think it was in Europe somewhere.
Second, go back. You can already see somebody attempting to grab him.
Yeah, sure. No, I know that there was an attempt. And the thing is, the only account we have that video clip, which may not have all the context. This is from a while ago. And excuse me. Furthermore, we don't really know. All we have is her side of the story, which is, oh yeah, he was wolf whistling and catcalling me, and I told him, to fuck off, and so he came over and hit me. It's possible, but if that's the case, it doesn't really explain any kind of trend. But it also.
Oh, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, this is okay. He's got a garbage bag. How likely is he homeless? And homeless means
person too,
homeless means mental health issues, and also compounded with living in an incredibly violent situation. That's one possibility. Two, how does this reflect on any particular group? Did he say, "I'm a whack"? Like, how is this relative?
Well,
how is this relevant? Is there a connection?
Yeah, to be fair, she basically says she's using an example of what she's calling incel ideology. So she posts the video and she gets.
Oh no!
No, it's not the incident itself.
Actually, I'm gonna agree with Allison here. I need more information before I say anything.
We should play the rest of this because I just want to address that video clip. I don't think we know enough about it, but
that news report was released. The majority of men were like, "Yo, I would have pounded his ass," not in a dirty way. That comes after he goes to jail. No, I'm just kidding. But then there were a few comments.
Okay, wait, Brian. I'm sorry. We have to pause here because I got to work this through in my mind. There was a guy who was going past the partition towards him. Go take a look at that clip.
All right, let me go back.
Yeah, there was a guy in the clip that she showed going past the partition. You can see everyone reacting to what happened.
In a red dress there, she walks past the man at the top of the screen. She says he whistled at her, made lewd remarks and noises, and they appear to go their separate ways, but the man turns back, follows her, and then ends up hitting her.
So I posted that on.
Yeah, I saw that.
Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw.
Okay.
I've seen this clip before.
Okay, so there's the reason why you can see everybody behind the partition is starting to get up and do something. And then there's one guy in red who's at the end of the partition because it would be difficult for them to get through that partition to do anything, and he is moving towards the man. Based on what she showed me, I think that it's a direct contradiction that nobody attempted to get this guy. But also, here's the thing. Would this woman, should she see a man being assaulted, do anything? Or would she regard that as being something that she doesn't need to get involved in? Or would women in general, if they saw a man get assaulted, would they do anything? Especially if it was by another woman. Because if it's by another woman, then you actually have the physical capability, presumably, to actually do something to intercede. Okay? Yep. I would guess that most women don't regard a man's safety as their responsibility. And yet, what we see here is a woman that regards men who do not see a woman's safety as their responsibility as being beneath the pale. It's like, well, I mean, fair enough, but maybe we should consider the double standard here. And the other thing is that, again, like, what is the evidence? So this is an evidence of incel mentality. So any situation in which a man is aggressive towards a woman is evidence of incel mentality. No, it's most likely evidence of mental illness compounded with a history of abuse. Okay?
Yeah.
That's what's happening here. You have no indication that this guy thinks he's an incel. I don't even understand the basis of what she's saying here.
Well,
Problem I have with it is that, well, what Allison was beginning to say. What does any of this have to do with incels? How is this man culpable to this idea of your incel ideology assumption? Because, well, how do you know he's an incel? Did he say he was an incel? What dog whistle did he do in the short amount of time he was in frame? Because I saw this clip that they're talking about. What did he do in that time period for you to know he was the thing that you're accusing him of being? Let me phrase that another way. Chloe Roma eats poop. How do you know she eats poop? She has a child. She has a source of poop. That's exactly the shit that she just said there. That's just as much sense as she just claimed. Furthermore, people tried to stop that man. So the other thing that she's accusing there is kind of some shit. How did you come to that conclusion, Chloe? There's so many things. So many things, and we're going to get into them because I'm pretty sure Allison's about to say them. But there are so many things happening at once. that it's like, wait, hold on, wait a minute, stop, what, pause, deliberate. What the fuck? Because that's what it feels like. That's usually how it happens. I just want to know exactly what is she going to, what is going to represent the incel ideology here? That's what I want to know. Because we watched the video from Chloe as she referred to think before you sleep. Is that her version of what incel ideology is? Because that's not incel ideology. That's MGTOW, baby. And MGTOW and incel is not the same thing. And even if, because this is what I think, because I think they're both idiots, from the dissertation of that video I did, live stream I did, that is not even in itself an example of supposed incel ideology. That is actually a MGTOW trying to explain and break down what he's looking at, because you're not a honey badger. You're not speaking like somebody who understands the gravity of what these words you're saying mean, and you're just saying them. You're just repeating words, and you're hoping nobody asks questions. And when somebody asks questions, suddenly they go from being one of those people that you're hoping are in your army to being a reject. Because how dare you question? You're not supposed to question me. You're supposed to listen and believe. A blue, 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 blue. I don't know. Let's look at the car. Look at the fucking thing. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Only just now, Twitter, what the fuck? Twitter equals cancer. We're still on that, but yeah.
Is she just saying that she wants to be able to say that every time a man engages in bad behavior, incels are responsible? Well, that logic is totally and utterly flawed.
No, that's not what she's trying to say. She's. Let me play more of the clips so you get what this is about. So basically, she says she shared a video on her TikTok of a man assaulting a woman. This is her framing, okay? We don't really have all the story on it, and she basically said that this is something that is disgusting and should not happen. All right? And then there was someone who responded to her. So this is what she's getting at.
TikTok. I was like, first of all, it's pretty disgusting that nobody in that cafeteria grabbed that ass and held him there to the police doctor. The police
Which they did try to do, but
were searching for him at the time.
That was one big guy.
yeah, it was.
Report was released. A majority of men.
Go ahead.
That guy was big.
Oh, hold on, let me read that. Problem with buzzwords is that they get thrown around so much that they mean nothing at all. Well, I talked about that before, but it's a bit deeper than just, well, the buzzword means nothing. Let me put it another way, because buzzwords kind of takes the oomph out of what I'm saying. Imagine that there's a person at a firing range. They don't wear PPE, right? Or even a better example would be in my factory, but I said fire range first, so let me use the first example. You bring somebody new to a firing range, and they do everything to ensure proper firearm safety wrong. They don't wear their noise-canceling headphones. They are not wearing their safety glasses, so they don't get fucking twanged in the eye with discharged firearms. Specifically, shells and shit. Rounds, whatnot. They don't exercise firearm safety. They constantly have their finger on the trigger, even on an unloaded weapon. They're just lazily shaking the thing about from to and fro. That, but ideology, and words, and arguments. Or, another example, in my actual factory environment. They walk out on the floor. They don't get their wristband to make sure that when they came into the factory, they have been screened for the COVID-19, right? They're not wearing their safety goggles. This is less likely if they're coming in for the turnover of a shift, right? You know, it's much different if they're coming into work than if they've been there for a while, but they don't have the wristband. They don't wear their safety glasses. If they're not maintenance to the point where they're like, bro, I don't need to wear gloves with this shit. I can just, there you go, it's fixed. You know, they're inexperienced and they're not wearing their shit so that they can be protected. Or in the shit where they should have gloves, like picking up raw components that have just come out of the forgery, being sent to the machining lab to be inserted into the machines. They're not wearing gloves. They're letting their hands slide on sharp metal so they get cut a lot, and now they're bleeding, shit like that. They don't wear earplugs, so they complain, "Oh man, I can't hear anything." You know, unsecured hair, loose hair, just everywhere, flying all about. Especially if they work around a place where their hair gets caught in a gear or trapped on an object or on a loader. Rip. Next, if you're lucky enough that your head does not come off with it. So either you come up bald or decapitated. That. Carelessly walking around, spewing off these unloaded charges. Completely careless. That's what it's like. When you see a person do that, it's flabbergasting because you're like, what the fuck? Because the way that a normal brain thinks about it, it's like prerequisites. A prerequisite to firearm handling, having a license, owning weapons, is that you have to be screened, right? So here's a person acting as though they don't even know the shit that they need to know, so they don't have the prerequisites, and they're trying to do shit that is above their weight class, right? And you sit there and you're like, honey, what are you doing? Hey, look at this shit. Look at this shit. Oh, this is gonna be some bullshit right here. It's that. So like, what? Where did Chloe get that from? That's what I want to know. Who taught you that? Did you do that? Oh.
Enough that.
Or the other guys were pretty small.
Or the other guys are pretty small.
Yeah.
Like that's a dangerous guy. Looks like he's pretty dangerous, pretty deranged. You know, and if I were in that situation, I might actually tell my husband not to get involved. Because to be quite frank, I don't want a dead husband.
Also, the important part here, Chloe's trying to apply some random event somewhere else as a reason of why incels are monsters. This extremely rare event over there is the reason why I hate incels. That's what she's saying there, by the way.
Does that make me a horrible person? Maybe you call the police and just let them deal with it because they have the ability to deal with it. Yes. But a lot of times, I don't know, I guess guys think it's more important to defend a strange woman than to protect themselves, even when they have wives and daughters and family members that don't want them to see. I remember an incident that a guy interceded in a domestic violence dispute between, like, I think they might have been Hell's Angels or something, or like more, well, even more criminal, like a biker gang couple.
Bikers, okay.
Yeah, and she holds him down while her boyfriend, who'd been beating on her like a couple seconds later, starts stabbing him. It's like, you just got wasted for nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. And your wife has to go bury you now for nothing.
Yep.
And you know, maybe it sounds really cold. But in my opinion, well, this is more cut and dry, of course, but that guy was fucking big. Call the cops. Let them deal with it. Why should these men's wives have to bury their husbands because of this situation?
We also don't really know what happened after this, but anyway, it's sort of irrelevant. I mean, yes, I think that she's wrong because you could see that men were trying to intervene and then the video gets cut off, so you can't say no one did anything because you just don't know. But I guess that's not really the point of this clip. It's just something that she said that I think that she shouldn't have said because it's not correct.
Men were like, yo, I would have pounded his ass. Not in a dirty way. That comes after he goes to jail. No, I'm just kidding. But then there were a few comments like this. Wasn't she cursing and stuff? Not saying she deserved it, but she sort of did. So that woman had been catcalled multiple times that day. He was very rude. He was very sexual. She told him shut up. Got ruthlessly punched in the face for it, and that's your response? And people liked his comments.
Well,
those are
to be honest, when you're dealing with someone that deranged, you probably don't want to really up the ante, as it were, antagonize them. You know, it's like it's sometimes you just tolerate it and move into a position where they can't continue to engage in it because you're now amongst people, like deking into a crowd and calling the cops. So, you know, it's like not every man on the planet is in a position because of his past to put women's safety first. You know, some guys are just monsters, and you know how men would respond to a guy like that, right, Brian? They probably wouldn't antagonize him.
No,
they would probably try to get the hell away from him in as non-antagonistic way possible, because they know that, and that's the thing. This is a situation that most men experience. Most men understand the potential of violence in everyday life, and they will not antagonize someone who's obviously insane. But women are not like that because their safety is someone else's responsibility. And wouldn't it have been better if she had simply not antagonized him? Then nobody would have gotten involved in this. But again, that doesn't make it her responsibility that he did lash out like that. It's probably, once again, mental health issues and a history of abuse.
Yeah,
but
probably.
If you're going to go out in public, you're going to probably encounter people like this. And again, probably a good idea not to antagonize them or learn to just try to get away. And totally, he should be going to jail for assault, and he's 100% responsible for what he did. But the attitude of being like what a self-defense instructor calls the New Romans, that everybody needs to act in a way in accordance with what you think the world should be, that's not the way the world works.
Yeah.
And I would rather this woman not have been hit than had her been hit. So, and like, again, it's not something that she deserved. But at the same time, there are people like this out there. There are cougars in the wild. Don't put steak in your pockets.
Also, if someone makes a comment saying, you know, like, not saying that she deserved it, but she kind of did, or whatever it is that person said. You know people troll, right? Like, I'm not saying that that's what that guy's doing. He might have been serious, but you can't take things seriously just because. I think that what happens with this person specifically, Chloe Roma, she wants to come across as she's trying really hard to be like a kind of egalitarian. She wants to be that centrist voice that is like, oh, both sides have their extremists, and I'm going to try and point them out. But the thing is, it's a lot harder to find that on the sort of non-feminist side, because yes, you're going to get trolls, but you do understand that in that regard, it's actually one of the ways that men deal with like bad news is they say things like, well, I guess I had that coming, like if it happens to them, right? But it's not that they're saying that what the other person did was justified. It's rather to sort of cope with the suffering, because we all have to suffer. And so I think the way that some men cope is they will make jokes. And I'm not saying that this is a joke, because I don't know what's in that guy's heart. He could have really meant it, no idea. But to say, I'm going to use this comment, and then I'm going to assume that this is indicative of a certain set of ideas, and where those ideas comes from is this incel community, and the incel community is actually a set of ideologies, the incel ideology, and the incel ideology is the feminazi equivalent for the men's movement, and therefore bad for the men's movement, and so therefore we have to call out incels whenever they make jokes, or say anything edgy, or even like are genuinely angry at their current state, and want to take it out on women verbally online. We have to spend a half of our time doing damage control and basically silencing those voices or calling them out or whatever, because if we don't do it, then the feminists get to point at that and say, look, you guys have misogynists in your camp and you're not dealing with your own shit, which obviously like makes it harder for us to do what's important, which is help those men. And I think that she's just trying really hard to be fair, and I just don't think that it's proportionate. Like,
the funny thing there is that he just described basically the culture war in like full, like perfectly. I'm actually shocked how succinctly he put it. Because realistically, that's what he's describing, and the end game of what it does is exactly what he just said. Two people accusing the other of not handling their shit, and therefore they're not allowed to speak. So both sides try to find as much dirt as possible while trying to cover up as much bullshit their side is responsible for as possible. So when it comes time to talk shit about who's doing the least amount for whomever they're supposed to be protecting or safeguarding or advocating for, consistently making it a case of, well, you're not helping enough men, so you're actually a chud. Or, you're not helping enough SJWs, so that means you're actually an anti-SJW chud. That is what it comes down to. On, like, a large scale. So it's not shocking. But at the same time, it's good to know that somebody else sees it the way I saw it, at least, because it's another form of the thing I was talking about earlier. And there's just I just wanted to point that out.
When a murderous incel writes a book and it becomes a bestseller, and they get to speak at a college, and they get to appear on, like, national television, like Channel 4 News or something, on the BBC, let me know. Other than, when that happens, let me know, and we'll have a conversation about that. But right now, it seems to me that you have to
the thousands of men, you see.
Thousands.
Brian, the thousands of men who, the thousands of men, thousands.
Yeah.
Like, at least a tiny town in Saskatchewan's worth of men, Brian, you see. At least exist in the world that hate women. Thousands.
Yeah.
But you couldn't even go for something that's actually a little bit concerning.
Like some guy who made an edgy comment.
100 million men hate women. It's like, still, that's 1% of the population. But anyway. Okay, let's
keep going a little bit more.
What are incel ideologies? Incels hate women. They blame them for the majority of their problems.
They absolutely do not hate women. Even, look, I want to tell you, let me play the rest of the clip, and then I'll...
It's actually weird. It's not that incels hate women. They hate the things that women are doing that makes them not like the ideal that they want to be with. Essentially, they don't hate the woman. They hate the dumb shit that she does, and wished she did not do that dumb shit, so it didn't disrupt what he considers the fantasy woman he wants. He hates when the real woman disrupts the fantasy of his idealized woman. There we go. That's a better way to explain it. And it's the same way around with the other West Side too. Oh, my drinks are here. Yes. Oh, my drinks are here. I bought one for my brother's woman, but apparently he already left with her, so I'm gonna have to drink it myself. Oh well. What was I saying before I had to go get the door? Ah, yes. It's not that the incel hates women as much as they are resentful of the things that real women are, other than the fantasy that they want to have. Same way incel women are resentful of incel men for being what men are and not the idealized, perfected god figure they should be. And it is this cycle of resentment for not being perfect that has them hating each other, while as at the top of that pyramid that I described as before, the feminist is extremely mad that the really high value guy that she wants to bang her out the frame doesn't want her, and would rather fuck a femcel than her, because she's not high value, and she's preachy. It's that.
Feminists, which kind of sounds like the feminists that blame men for their problems. We call them radical, but okay. They essentially believe that women should obey men, essentially perpetuating the idea that men have ownership over women's bodies. Now you're probably saying, Chloe, that guy didn't say I hate women. He didn't say that woman shouldn't have said that to that man and she went to go out and hit. He didn't say that man had a right to do that because men should have a say over how a woman acts. No, but his comment did. He essentially asserted the fact that if she had not spoken back, he wouldn't have hit her.
All right.
Okay,
Go ahead.
Chloe, we're talking about somebody with an obvious, who most likely has a mental illness and a history of abuse. Get men out of this conversation, please. What this person is saying is, if someone is obviously deranged, do not antagonize them. Please, this has nothing to do with the average man. Just because this deranged person happened to be a man, but he's not going to say, "Oh yeah, if a normal guy who doesn't look like he's tweaking gives you lip, you can't say, hey sir, please shut up." He's not going to say if somebody deranged with a fucking like. I didn't even barely saw this guy, and I'm like, yeah, this is bad news. He's enormous, and he has a goddamn trash bag.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not normal. There's something wrong with this dude. I will now be as like just be quiet, move on, and try to get somewhere crowded as quickly as possible. Do not antagonize. Like there are creatures that are obviously not to be antagonized. Generally, give you some indications of such. This has nothing to do with the interactions of the average woman with the average man. It's the interactions of a normal person with someone who is obviously deranged. So this does.
To reframe this another way, who remembers when their parents gave them a talk with the police? I never had the talk with my parents. My mother was too terrified to tell me what to do because she knew I wasn't going to listen to her, because she has no right to try to tell me about the reality of living as a man when she is kind of half the reason I am the way I am. And for my godfather, who was more like, I don't have to tell you, you already know on your own. It's the talk of, if the police stop you, don't say, I ain't going with you. You can't tell me what to do. You ain't my daddy. You ain't my mama. No, it's instead, yes, sir. No, sir. Am I resisting arrest, sir? Absolutely not, sir. I'll put my ass in the air for you, sir. Am I getting smart with you, sir? Absolutely not, sir. I just wanted to tell you that I was very much compliant, sir. Absolutely, my ass thick, sir. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Yes, slap some more, sir. Even if you hate the fact that you're in this situation and you're rolling your eyes internally, you do not become a sovcit. Never go full soft citizen. Because when you go sovset and you get your ass knocked the fuck out, because you seem to think that means, oh, I guess if I say that I'm a sovereign citizen and you're not allowed to arrest me, that means you can't arrest me. Oh, you'll make an officer really happy. You know the meme of the violence has escalated? That's how happy they get. And much like then, that is what Allison is saying here. So for all of those Vosh Johan wannabes out there that will see this now or in the future, She is not saying, no, you're not allowed to say things to men ever. And even now, since she's saying it's very clearly deranged, the same thing would go for a woman too. That's why most people, when they see a woman whiling, tend to not do anything. Because a woman whiling in public tends to get away with more, because really, if you were to tell her anything, what's to say she wouldn't turn her tirade on you, and you be just as stuck in the same situation as the person she's already attacking? It's a mechanism to ensure that you stay safe. It sucks, but sometimes it be like that. But what would you rather be? Would you rather be right, or would you rather be happy? Or, to be more exact, would you rather be zealous, vindictive, and feel morally justified in the backseat of a cop cruiser? Or would you rather like to feel morally justified and potentially bludgeoned to death by a crazy person? Or say, yup, and run away and live another day? What would you rather be? Would you rather be right and dead? Would you rather be possibly maybe wrong and live to see another day? Which one would you prefer? Because I would prefer to be alive. Because in that situation, that's where rhetoric's not going to help you. Where argument's not going to help you. Let's continue. Oh, hold on. Let me read this out. I'm literally trained in disengagement as a guard. My job is to make sure buildings are secure, and they train me not to be a hero, for fuck's sake. My mom told me she would call the cops on me for many reasons. My dad gave me the talk about cops and don't give them a fucking thing they can use against you. Comply insofar that they don't decide that you're a threat. Absolutely. Alright, now let's move on.
He's not saying, oh yeah, women are owned by men, or women shouldn't speak when men are being fresh or whatever. He's saying, in the presence of someone deranged, at least what I'm saying, in the presence of someone who is obviously deranged, it is in your own best interest not to antagonize the fucking grizzly bear, and simply go on your way until you can get to a point of safety and call the cops. That's a reasonable statement, or he's trolling, because that. But that has nothing to do with. You see what I'm saying? She's assuming that this person. She's assuming a hell of a lot. She's assuming, first of all, that this person thinks that this applies to the average interaction between the average woman and the average man, not the average interaction between a normal person and a deranged person on the street.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's not. No. You don't do that.
No.
This individual is not talking about men and women.
Exactly.
Insofar, because it's just not talking about the relationship between men and women. It's talking about the relationship between someone who's presumably sane and someone who's looking like he might not be.
Well, a violent reaction like that for supposedly, a rejection from catcalling is evidence, I would suggest, that it is evidence of them not being entirely stable, because the average healthy person would simply take their lumps and move on and be like, well, that sucked, So.
Well, the other thing is that there was some indication, I think there was some indication beforehand, of guys carrying a plastic bag. And I don't mean to shame people who are homeless or do stuff like that, but generally, that's not necessarily a good sign.
Yeah.
It's just something that it's a little bit of a red flag, and then also his behavior is, anyway. No, she didn't deserve to get hit.
No,
but this guy is not talking about the interaction between men and women. He's not saying that this woman shall always just submit to the behavior of men. He's saying that in the case of dealing with deranged individuals, it might be better not to antagonize them. If he's saying anything at all beyond trolling,
again, it's hard to say, and again, it seems like a strange thing to use as I'm going to use this as my launch pad for my rant about incels and how their existence is a danger to the MRM. So, okay, so let's, I have some super chats. I have a lot, actually, that I built. Let me read them, and then we'll keep going. So Meredith Glassberg gives us $5 and says, Brian, I hope the move went well. Thank you, Meredith. Oh, Janice just sent us
If Chloe
a
has
thing.
even a smidgen of understanding and or self-awareness, she is ignoring
Hold on, Alison, hold on.
requests Brian because she knows that on your show she would be completely out of her depth. Thanks to you and Ellison and all the honey badgers for your tremendous insights.
All right, thanks, Janice. Yeah, she gave us a big super chat. I'm going to read it again because Allison can't hear the audio from the...
yeah, I was just sitting in silence.
Yeah. Okay,
being owned by Brian.
Yeah.
You see.
The Great Endurance 1979 gives us €5 and says, good to see you at your new location, Brian. Also, this society's definition of what a real man is of no interest to me. It has no actual value. I don't think our society has a good definition for men right now. We really don't understand men. I think that's why men are doing... I think more and more men are doing it on their own, though.
Oh, I have a definition for men. It was from earlier. When Dev, or I would rather mean Reggie, wink wink nudge nudge, said, I thought of a definition of how to describe women that does not ignore trans women. If his definition was, if you're allowed to slap a woman and you're not allowed to slap them back, that is indeed a woman. There was a bunch of people who were talking shit to Dev when he said that, and I saw them. There are also a bunch of people who were trolling, who were both essentially saying, lol, haha, I didn't know that children were women. This was my take. Yes, because that's how that works. This is why women drive society. This is how it has always been. It's just that now we can actually talk about it, because now we have to talk about etymology and why etymology is important. A woman in this paradigm, including all the many definitions of woman that exists, is a person whose society affords protections. A man is someone whose society does not afford protections unless he is valuable. It depends on what you consider that value to be. But that is how that paradigm exists. When you think about it for half a second, and then you really think about it, it makes perfect sense, don't it? I see your chats, I will get to them. But it makes sense, doesn't it? When a person is considered to be valuable, and then you've seen this if you see my Twitter and you see me antagonize these people so that I can then laugh at them. When they crowd around a kid who has a shit-ass take on the internet, and they're surrounded by these women and male feminists who are rapists, who say, oh, you little special little child, aren't you so good? Aren't you so special? Don't you know? Don't you think? Don't you men know that they're right and you're wrong? They deserve to be shrouded in our cheers. Especially if they're underage. Especially if they're an underage girl. Saying shit like, hey, actually, kids can be adult and mature and sexual. You guys can't just count us out. And then somebody like me comes around and says, where's your training bra, kid? And the reaction from all of these women and that child is, oh, grown-ass man, grown-ass man, grown-ass man, grown-ass man. No one wants to hear from you, grown-ass man. Shut the fuck up, grown-ass man. You can't be out here like this. Oh my god, are niggas okay? That is how you know. Because the child will not do anything until society tells them it's acceptable. Because society is women. Women is society, and society is women. The child is a woman when society says she is a woman. And when she is not a woman, then society says she gets to say that she is not a woman. Woman is only what society says she can be, because society is women. You might think I'm being an asshole right there. No, I'm serious. That's how it works. When a group of women, for example, when a group of feminists decide, actually, it's an incel behavior for a man to say they don't want to fuck me because I weigh 500 pounds and I don't take care of myself. He's clearly an incel. He can't handle all this woman. And I come along out of the fucking ether, floating on high, enraptured in divine energy. Hold on, I have to be expressive with this. We're gonna go full screen, Carl. If a man just floats down out of the ether, oh, Bitch, I ain't gonna fuck you with my dick. I wouldn't fuck you with my dick. I wouldn't fuck you with his dick. I wouldn't fuck you with Matumbo's dick, and Matumbo weighs 800 pounds. I wouldn't fuck you with any dick, not even your best silicone dick on a 10-foot pole. Bitch, get real. Oh. At that moment, whatever happens next is what that woman is allowed to do. There's lots of ways a conversation like that could go. Ugh. Also, where's my box? I had a box for the YouTube super chats. Here they are. There we go. Found it. I found it. I forgot to turn it on too. But whatever happens next after that interaction, that is what society is allowed to do. Because society is the voice of the woman that can be seen telling other people, both in their own words and in the action of shouting down and heckling someone, you are allowed to bully them. You are allowed to disenfranchise them. You are allowed to dismiss them. You are allowed to besmirch them, to antagonize them, to vilify them, to demonize them, to ignore them, to block them out, to stop them from having a life, to take money from them because they're not us. That is what happens when that shit happens. And that is because society is men and women, but it's the women who are heard more than the men. Because how often do you see men involved in these elder council meetings? Rarely, if ever. You know why? Because men aren't supposed to be there. You know why? Because men aren't allowed there. You know why? Guess. Guess. The answer will surprise you. No, I'm serious. Guess. No. I do not see guessing. I have to assume it's because of the latency again. I set it on ultra low, so hopefully you're not getting much of a delay. Maybe you're just stumped on this one. Oh, actually, I was wrong. Joss actually hit it right on the fucking head. Society is women, but the hurtful parts are patriarchy. Men are not listened to when it comes time for demonization because the women get to decide what hurts them and what doesn't hurt them. Also correct, Jimmy, because the men aren't making the decision. If you have society being guided by women, remember my analogy from the last stream. Men are typically the fuel for the engine, right? They don't get to steer. They just get to power it. When you have women driving the engine, deciding what is and isn't a problem, they get to decide that some man over here talking is a problem. Because for them, kind of like, basically like Twitter, they think they're more important than they are. Because look, they're women in society. They're in the first world. They have the ability to throw their voices into the crowd. And should they find a crowd that will listen to them, they can become enthralling leaders of them. And all of those men that stand behind them empower them. But they do not empower the men. Because, in view of the mob, and mob justice, the people who are helping the leader of the mob are not the ones that organized everything together. They believe they are entitled to be heard. And so, it is with this entitlement that if someone like me were to come along and tell them, shut the fuck up, you're stupid, you don't know what you're doing, you don't know what you're talking about, your opinion is worth nothing. If somebody comes along and tells them anything according to that language, it flips them the fuck out. But remember, especially with a website like Twitter, one person's opinion is not representative of the opinion of everybody. Not always. Because here in North America, where I live, 20% of the country is on Twitter. And of the people who have the time to be on Twitter, usually white, upper class, if not upper middle class, individuals who have the time to concern themselves with the topic they are talking about. Good example is feminism. Who's the leaders of feminism? White women. Why is feminism led by white women? Because it gives them the ability to be seen. They get to be the idea of the high-value, sociable woman who's above and aware of society. She knows everything there is to know about the topic, so she gets to have power in it. She has money. She gets to go jet setting and trending. She gets to go eat in designer hotels. While the people that are telling her, you literally don't know what you're talking about, you are destroying everything, if not literally in the case of Annie Sarkeesian, for example, and how she basically, literally, abused her trans workers, eating in a fucking 5-star restaurant in another country, while back in fucking Canada and America, they're sitting in the feminist frequency offices, cold, with no fucking power to heat the goddamn AC. That is those movements. That is those women. As long as they're able to tune out all those things that they decide are not relevant, they don't care. Because even if you were to say, this is a problem, you made this possible, your choices, your advocation, your policy stripped this from us, they will turn around and say, actually, we didn't do that to you, the patriarchy did that to you. It will never be their fault. Because society decided that women don't have power. It's always the patriarchy. What power women have is only because they stole it from other men. Because that's their reparations. Also, I didn't read some of this. So let me go back and read what John said. Right here. Case in point, I worked at Potty City. There was a haunted house next door. Some women and men were drunk. One woman had no pants on. Her friends recording her, most likely drunk. I notified security, pointed it out to them, but they got in their cars and they drove off quick. I mentioned it to a female friend and she said, bitch, move, and blocked me. I am confused to this day. It was not my business, and I did the most I could without getting implicated in something nefarious or getting my ass beat. Exactly. Remember when a bunch of politicians' wives were the ones that demanded that all the men of rock and roll be brought before a Senate committee to defend the language in their music because the women were mad? Oh, I do. Let me give you another example. Do you remember when the Grid Girls in the UK were banned and were forced to lose their jobs as essentially promotional models in the F1 sport? Because feminists were upset that men enjoyed looking at them. Do you remember? Because this is the thing that happened with me concerning such one feminist. If you're from my audience and you know about Zombie Unicorn, you already know what I'm about to say, but this is for the people who are new, who haven't been here before. Do you remember, or were you aware, when Zombie Unicorn cried at my fucking feet, demanding that I have to be wrong because I said, actually, you have no problem with sexualizing yourself. You just don't like that these other women who are younger, more attractive, and much more studious than you are able to speak at nauseum and length about a brand that they really care about and that they work for, while also working out an extremely hard working cardio routine that they can do and do better than you could. You're just mad about that, so you cope by drawing and painting yourself and your boobs on stream. You remember when that shit happened? That's another perfect example of that. That's how society's women. Society decides who deserves to have rights and who does not. When you are not protected, even if you're a man, you are a woman until they decide to treat you like a man. Right? Because you can have male feminists basically having the same privileges that will be afforded to women. But, well, everything except for dick or vagina. Although, I don't know. Does a male feminist have an easier time being an abuser if they happen to be gay, so they get to predate themselves on gay men? That's something I actually have to ask Panda. I'm gonna ask Panda that in a bit. I don't know if he'll reply. But, yeah. Society is women. And women get to decide what part of it is patriarchy and what part of it is just women